Hello and welcome to Power of One, Episode 5. I'm Neil Robertson, a self-employed marketing consultant, and I'm co-hosting this podcast with Paul McNabb, a Liverpool-based psychotherapist. Paul, welcome once again.
Hello?
I don't know why I'm saying welcome. You co-host this with me, so it's just a
I
both
know, but it sounds more professional, I think, when you say it. Like
exactly.
an introduction, isn't it?
Yeah. So this episode is all about how to spot a narcissist, and I think that it's going to be very, very interesting to a lot of people, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people watching who've probably had first-hand experience with this. So Paul, let's get it going. So, for the uninitiated, what is narcissism and how does it typically play out in real life?
So, with narcissism, there seems to be a lot of speculation of what it is. So, a lot of people don't understand what it is. So, if someone's judging all the time, if someone's got no empathy, if someone's not that supportive to you, if someone's bullying you in certain ways, that person's got more traits of narcissism. It doesn't mean they're a narcissist, but they might have traits of narcissism. Now, what I've found is the main part of narcissism that affects most people is the lack of empathy. So when you lack empathy, they cannot see the world through anyone else's eyes. So they only see the world through their own vision. Now, we all go through this in teenage years, really, where we can still have empathy and things like that as teenagers, but we might see the world through our own eyes a little bit more. So things are really important to us, and it doesn't matter about anybody else. That thing is more important. Now, narcissists in adults, they still use this, but it's almost like this teenage child in whatever age body. So what they want, they've got to get. They're determined to win. It's all about winning for them.
Mm.
But it's the people who they're winning against don't know they're in a competition. So it's a really serious sort of mental disorder. It's called cluster B syndrome, and it's like when it affects someone's they don't know, so they will never really admit that they're a narcissist. So diagnosing a narcissist, they would not tell you. They would not admit it. But a lot of narcissists can get diagnosed with like ADHD, autism. There's loads of things they can be diagnosed with because then it's an excuse. But you wouldn't get a grandiose narcissist, so it goes into different ways. So grandiose narcissist is someone who basically you get this. I feel like you get this more in males. So a lot of people would say Donald Trump, like the Tate brothers, or people who are sort of they think the sun shines out their own arse. Like nothing they ever do is wrong, so they never admit fault. They are always right. They always win.
Mm.
So it's that determination. But someone can have a bit of that, but not be a narcissist. So as I say, it always goes back to the lack of empathy. They cannot see the world through someone else's eyes, even their own children. They come before their own children.
Yeah.
So it destroys other people's sort of personalities. It affects it. So there's a knock-on effect. It's almost like they're a parasite and they live off humanity where they just feed all the time. And it's always about them being sort of fulfilled. So if you've seen the film Willy Wonka, which is one of my favourites, the original, so I can't, what's her name? Where she wants the golden egg. Is it
Violent?
Veron? Is it Violet? Veronica or Violet or
Yeah,
something like that, isn't it?
something like that.
But she's like, Daddy, I want that golden egg. And he's like, come on, Wonka, how much? And straight away, like he wants to buy it for her. So she's already getting into that spoiled mentality of, I want the world and I want it now. And then she gets onto the machine and it says she's the bad egg. And then her dad gets on and he's the bad egg. But he's sort of creating it, if you get what I mean, because she's part of him and she gets what she wants. And that's where you see the scenes earlier on of like the factory opening all these chocolate bars and things like that. So it's how we feed the narcissist. Now, narcissists can be created during childhood by being sort of getting their own way too much, lack of discipline in the family home. There's loads of things where it's almost like if you like, it's too much positiveness can create a narcissist in that sense, but too much pain and too much abandonment can make a narcissist in another way. But some people are empaths. So the people who are empaths, they see the world through other people's eyes. So they're people pleasers. They actually want other people to have a happy life. They don't want other people to feel the pain they've gone through. So they're like a filter system. They feel pain and they still give out goodness. Whereas a narcissist's philosophy in life is, I'm not happy, so you're definitely not happy. If I'm in pain, you're fucking definitely going to be in pain because they live off other people's sort of energies. The actors, they're living in a society and they mimic other people, and they go through fads a lot more than other people because they sell themselves a dream. This thing's going to be amazing. And then their self-sabotage will ruin it for them because they're greedy by nature. So when you're greedy by nature, you overdose on things. You have too much of it. So they pick and they drop people just as much as they drop all these fads. So they'll have one friend group to speak about this with, they'll have one, but they never really attach to any of them. So they're a good listener a lot of the time. Narcissists are quite good listeners because they're listening for you to tell them how to hurt you. So when they see your insecurities, they're not that good friend with their arm around you, really. They're going, do you know, whenever you do something against me or don't do as I say, I'm going to bring this up. So if you show them your vulnerability, they see you as weak then. So every time they deem you as being weak, that's that little bit more disrespect they show you. They feel like they're sort of David defeating Goliath. So they love bomb you at first. They go into a relationship where they love bomb you at first. They're the greatest thing you've ever met because they're the answer to all your prayers. Because they're just agreeing with stuff. It's like if you went and bought a car and the salesman was like, yeah, it's going to have all these extras on it. And then you get the car and there's no extras on it. So you've been tricked. And like one I always use is like a narcissist's almost like, it's like any car. So like a grandiose narcissist would think they were a Ferrari, but they've got no engine. So they look shiny on the outside, they look great, but inside there's nothing. There's this dull void. And they've got to damage people, they've got to feel power just to feel like they are really a Ferrari. But in reality, most of them are like a beige Fiesta.
Yeah.
But they think they're great. I mean, you get a lot of this in, obviously, like sort of the famous world. You'll get narcissistic personalities who do not care who they destroy. They just want to be at the top. And they'll step on people, and we sort of encourage it as a society. But in the society now, we've got so much narcissism in it because a lot of the time the leaders of countries are narcissists. Like you've got police officers who are narcissists, you've got judges who are narcissists. So it's all about power, isn't it? So if they get themselves in a job where you hold loads of power, you're getting your ego fed all the time. You speak to me with respect. Mm-hmm. Get a lot of doctors who are narcissists, and it's like obviously not all of them. There's loads of good ones out there, but you will get them in sort of every walk of life. But high-powered jobs is like a dream for them to shout at people and they're the boss who doesn't listen to you. Or you come up with a great idea and they'll shoot that down in a meeting, but then 2 weeks later they will promote that like it's their idea. I've come up with this, and everyone will clap them.
Yeah,
and it's all their flying monkeys. So that goes back to the story of the Wizard of Oz. So the term flying monkeys, which is used a lot with narcissism, is the people who support them, is the people who validate them. Now, the bad news is that everyone who's around them validates them at some point. So we can all be flying monkeys at some point for them. But once we know the evil and the bad, because they're not nice people, we are then validating bad behaviour, which harms other people.
Would you say, just jumping in there, because I mean, there's so much to unpack there. I think one thing that really stood out to me from what you said is they're good actors. And there's another angle about maybe narcissists not being very grown up, which I'd like to come back onto. But would you say that is one commonality between, because we don't want to talk about different types of narcissism in this, that's going to be a separate podcast. But if there is one thing that they all have in common, would you say it's that they're just not nice people at their core? Is that basically the way that you'd kind of unify them, or is there other ways that you could unify them?
So this is the problem, you see. So with a grandiose narcissist, they can be amazing people, but they're not behind closed doors. So they'll often work for like churches, charities, anything where they look important. Look how generous they're really generous because that's buying. So if they buy something for you, they're buying a part of you. So see, once again, it's they own you, and it's almost like they're the king or they're the queen. And all of us are peasants, and we've got to go up to them, and they'll love a joker, they'll love the jester. But once they don't find it funny anymore, or someone takes the piss out of them, they don't like it. So they're not really good at anyone insulting them. Whereas an empath's used to getting insulted, so they take it on the chin. They sort of live with it more. They can laugh it off because they're used to it.
Well,
they'll even take the piss out themselves more.
I'm a bit like that in the sense that, you know, Like obviously we've used the phrase, or you've used the phrase bitch humor in other podcasts, but
Yeah, yeah.
that I think in a lot of social circles, and I've been in loads of social circles like this where people can take the piss out of me, but I know that more often than not, it's because they respect me and because they like me. Obviously, there's a line. And what I have found, and we've talked about this before, is that the people who are narcissistic take it a step too far. They make it personal. They bring up things that happened 15, 20 years ago. You know how you talked there about how
Yeah, yeah.
they don't move on, they don't grow up. They're like teenagers. Well, I still sometimes would get that with people I knew in the past where, they bring up stuff that happened a long time ago and wouldn't see me for who I was right here today.
Yeah, because they're very vengeful, and it's like in their head, it's always a competition.
Yeah.
So this is why the compulsive liars, they cheat all the time. They're not trustworthy people, but they promote that they are, and that's the illusion of it. Because
Mm.
they're delusional, you see. So they live a life where, imagine living a life where you can never do any wrong. It might sound good, but in reality, how would you learn then? How would you learn how to change? How can you mature? So that's the problem, is it? So they get stuck, you see, and it's like teenage ego. So they think they're absolutely great, but inside they don't, and that's where people don't understand. A lot of narcissists are very, very unhappy people. They're very insecure people. So what you see on the outside is the Ferrari part. They know inside they've got no engine.
Well, I think as well, like you've touched on something really important there, and obviously I'm not a qualified psychotherapist, but one thing I do think that one behavior that most narcissists exhibit, and look at people like Donald Trump and JD Vance with the way that they treated Zelensky when he went to the White House. It's like they goad you. They like you being weak.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
you might have said that in your response to one of the previous questions, which is like they enjoy seeing you suffer. They enjoy
yeah.
putting themselves above you.
But see, what you see in that scenario was three narcissists in one room.
Oh yeah, so you're adding Zelensky, you'd say that he is as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm a bit scared to say yes, he is, but yeah, it's like,
I don't think he'll be watching.
no, I mean, he might be
Yeah,
doomed all over Ukraine, but no, it's like these world leaders always do tend to be.
yeah.
So to have that mindset where you've got to make big decisions, like a lot of surgeons and things like that are very high up the scale on narcissism. But what people don't understand is when someone is a narcissist, when they lack empathy, they lack remorse. When they apologize, it's only so they can get what they want. So you'll find narcissistic men, because there's a big difference between narcissistic men and narcissistic women. Narcissistic men will often apologize a lot, where you don't really get that as much in the females,
That's interesting.
because it's a way of, and with narcissistic men as well, they can often appear very vulnerable.
Mm.
They can almost, it's almost like that puppy or something, do you know what I mean? It's like a little boy syndrome where they never grow up and they want a mother, they want someone to mother them. And it always links back narcissism to childhood, always. So you don't just become narcissistic, it's got to be from what's going on in your surroundings. It's like a coping mechanism, but unfortunately, it's the wrong way. So if you switch to that, and especially like statistics say that it's anyone over the age of 25, if they're still showing really strong traits of it, they're not going to lose it then. It just becomes stronger. And it's a punishment. There's no good part about it.
When just something
But it's sold as if it is, because it's an act, isn't it?
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Just something going back to something you said earlier. When a male narcissist apologizes, for example, or they apologize a lot for things, what do you think it is they want to get out of that when they're doing that? Like, what's their kind of
It's
end goal?
acceptance, it's control. So to be the victim, it's almost like they punch you in the face and go, "Oh, I'm sorry." Oh, like,
Yeah,
do
they
you get
don't
what I
want to
mean?
do it again. Yeah,
So
yeah,
then you feel sorry for them.
yeah.
Well, in their head, really, they want to destroy you. But the covert narcissist, which is the other side of narcissism, is the bitch humor side, is the side that is sort of pretending that they're a victim. But are they really? Do they burn bridges a lot? Are they a good friend to people? Are they a loyal person? Are they ever there for you? So many people, and I deal with a lot of clients who are sort of the victims of narcissism from all different walks of life, whether it's from family, whether it's from partners, whether it's from work-related issues. But some people have never been around it, and they're actually easier to deal with. So someone who's never really been around it through family and stuff like that, if they only get it in the workplace, it might not take them many sessions to understand that it's not them, that it's this person's acting this way. It's not nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's in you, if it's through family, which for most people it is, them children often have a lot of symptoms of them PTSD because it's almost like the same symptoms of a child growing up in a war zone. They feel unloved, they feel like vulnerable. So then there's two ways to go. If they switch the button where they go, I don't give a shit, I want everyone to suffer because I've suffered. So they're then a narcissist themselves. But then you get the empathetic kids who become the parents. So they become the carer, then they're everyone's carer. They're always just giving and giving and giving. And to a narcissist, they are like the gold star. They've won the prize if they get that. Because this person doesn't want them to do anything for them. So that's great for them. It's just one-sided. So the empath is like the sort of Cinderella, if you like. So they do the cooking, they do the cleaning, they do and it's still not good enough.
Yeah, that's the bit that always gets me, is the bit about, and we've talked about this before, but like that emotional abuse and manipulation where someone pours their heart out to you like that and dedicates their whole life to you, and that's still not enough. You want more and more, and it's really, really quite sad. And
it's weird because it's opposites attract, and it's like it's an empath gives out so much and they ask for very little back. So at the beginning of a relationship, they're only ever asking for crumbs. And a narcissist is the main supplier of crumbs. They want 99% of the attention to be about them all the time. They need to be fulfilled. It's like a child. They want to be entertained all the time. And they think life's boring, and they think, because they can't mature. But it has massively different effects in men and women because of, like, we are different. Men and women are completely different things. So women suffer in a lot worse way, I think. Like narcissistic women really suffer with it, where narcissistic men, especially the grandiose ones, they can sort of keep it up till they die. So they'll be the head of the family, they'll be the one who organises all the money, and it's always got to be their say. The children will be adults, but they'll make the decisions.
Yeah, wow.
And they're all begging for this parent's attention. And they normally scapegoat the mum, or they'll scapegoat one of the sisters. So it links into childhood then, whether who's the family scapegoat, who's the family sort of golden child. The golden child is pretty much always narcissistic.
You know, you're talking about women there as well. So like we've covered both genders, and I think it's quite interesting how with men, as you've just alluded to there, you know, they play people off against each other. That's quite a common trait of a narcissist.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen that in I mean, we might as well segue into this question because it was part of my agenda that I had written down anyway. We were going to talk about examples of narcissism in popular culture, and you've already made a couple of references there with The Wizard of Oz and Willy Wonka. But you know, there's another example I want to bring out, and it's a show called Selling Sunset on Netflix. Have you ever seen Selling Sunset on Netflix? It's about a group of Los Angeles-based real estate agents. You know,
Right.
and I want to put this question to you as someone who knows more about this than me. Do you think that within women, it's more common for them to play each other off against each other, if that's the right English, where to play their mates off against each other? Because one thing that I found when I was watching that is like they don't half like try and divide and conquer the women more than men. That was the takeaway I got from it. Like they'll basically be nice to your face and be friendly to your face, but then they'll go and try and, you know, say, oh, did you see what she said? Or did you see what she said? And then they'll talk really badly about people behind their backs. Or do you think that's something that happens across both genders?
So that's a really good question, because it sort of brings up the topic of how it's got worse for female narcissists. So since probably for the last 30 years, it's been getting worse and worse by the years, because there's a lot of women out there who don't want to be a woman. So they value their dad. So their dad might have worked a lot. He might have been a businessman, or he might not even just have been a businessman. He just worked a lot. So these daughters then sort of look at the mum's role and go, well, I don't want that. Yeah. I want what my dad's got. So I want to be out the house. I want to be the worker. So they need to sort of make their dad proud. Now, if they've got a brother who the dad sort of gets on with better, or there's a bit of, then they're constantly trying to outdo the brother then, and it can create that where a lot of men years ago were more narcissistic. Statistically, it was more men who were narcissists, where now I'd probably say it's slightly more females than male. because men have had to change so much. Look how society judges men. So men years ago who were narcissistic, they go to work, didn't really give a shit about the kids, didn't really give a shit about the wife, as long as there was food on the table. And they were blagging that role of, well, I look after them, don't I? But I don't give them any emotional support. I don't really. So everyone sort of didn't like these men. So then men sort of come into the thing, well, no, I want to be a dad as well. I want to work. I want to be a dad. I want to do this. I want to do that. So men are a lot more hands-on. But the people who are damaged the most by this is the children. So a child doesn't understand that both parents need to work. Now, unfortunately, because of cost and stuff like that, most couples now have to work just to pay the bills. So it's the children who are being punished. And a lot of children, it's all children really, but a lot of children will show signs of it, is when they're put in nurseries and things like that, there's abandonment issues straight away in the child. And it doesn't matter if it's a great nursery, it doesn't matter. That child does not understand. When we take a puppy away from its mum after like 12 weeks, it cries for the first few days because it's used to being with its mum, and you're replacing its mum with you. You are now its carer, and that's why a dog's then loyal to you, because you're its main protector. A dog sees you like you're its parent, but so does a narcissist. So they love bomb you at first, where they're great, yeah, I'll support you, I'll do this, I'll do that. As time goes on, that gets pulled away. So you keep supplying them with the same energy, because you're not love bombing them, they're love bombing you. You're genuine with your love bombing. Do you get what I mean? So everyone sort of love bombs, but the way they love bomb, it's not real. It'll only last a short period of time, and then once that runs out, then it's down to them disliking you then. They feel like you've tricked them. See the delusion? So a narcissist will actually genuinely believe you've tricked them. They'll be like, hang on a minute, why isn't this person doing all these things for me anymore? Why aren't they sort of at my standard? And they keep moving the goalposts, you see, because their self-sabotage is, I cannot be happy. So they ruin things, they ruin their own life in a way. And then it's only as they get older, they have that sort of chance to look back and go, shit, I've ruined that and I shouldn't have done. So then they live in the deep regret. You see, that's part of the self-sabotage. This is what always happens with them. They don't get away with it.
But does some going back to a point you made earlier about remorse, and I'm just trying to piece this together so I understand, and hopefully the viewers can understand it as well. It's like, do some of them feel remorse? Because you mentioned there about how they'll look back in 20, 30 years and realize they made a mistake. Or is that more not necessarily remorse, but regret in a way, because then they couldn't get what they wanted? Do you see what I mean by that?
So it's regret. So they regret. It's no remorse about you. They're not sorry for what they've done to you. They feel sorry for themselves.
Yeah, okay.
They might go, oh, no one wants to speak to me now, or this, or they burn a lot of bridges. Whereas what you find is with narcissists, they depend on telling people who won't stick up for them, really. So that person's not going to come and say something to and that's what a lot of people think. So when someone in a narcissist relationship, I get a lot of clients where they've gone round and told people stories about me, they've sort of blacklisted me. And the person's sitting there going, oh my God, is someone going to approach me and say this? And they never do. Because really, the flying monkeys who are listening, validating this person's bad behaviour, going, oh my God, yeah, that person's terrible. And I've mentioned it in a few podcasts, that's what essentially a witch hunt is. So if you don't know the facts, if you haven't spoke to this other person, should we be so judgmental? There's always two sides to stories, and what you find is a narcissist will find numerous people who always take their side. So it's blind loyalty then, isn't it? Whereas a good friend to me is someone who tells me when I'm wrong. And I'll go, fucking hell, yeah. And you learn, don't you? You learn from it and go, oh, maybe I have handled that wrong, and you can apologise and you can do these things. Because that's how you learn into becoming a better person. And we become a better person mainly for ourselves, because then we're happier, we're more confident, and then we're better for others. A narcissist can never think that way. That's too mature for them. That's boring for them. So if there was a narcissist watching now, they wouldn't get this part. Because for them, it'd be like, well, no. And there's a myth that people say is, oh, well, a narcissist would never ask themselves to be a narcissist. The covert narcissist would, because they'll say it to someone so that other person goes, oh, no, you're not. See what I mean? Whereas a grandiose wouldn't question it. They'll just be like, I'm not.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you get people who actually will ask that to someone just to gain that kind of validation of, oh, no, don't worry, you're not, like with the
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
people.
But what they don't realise is, and I know it because of my job and stuff, but you, the worst thing you can ever do is tell a narcissist they're a narcissist. It's
Yeah,
almost lighting a pile of fireworks with a lighter and forgetting to run away
yeah, forgetting to run away. Yeah,
because it just goes
yeah,
in your face. Because what what most empaths do is they see reason, they see logic, so they want to understand, and they'll try and explain it. It's like there's this sort of quote where it says, like, dealing with a narcissist, it's like being bitten by a snake and then chasing the snake and asking it why it bit you,
yeah, yeah. That's
because
good.
you just don't get an answer. They don't see logic the same way. They will blame you for their actions. So I watched the documentary the other week about Fred and Rose West,
Yeah, yeah,
on Netflix, and obviously they're both mentally ill. But you can tell she's the driving in it because she's never got any remorse. She just says it's not me. Whereas he holds his hands up because he's so loyal. You see, he's so loyal to the one who's in charge.
yeah. Mm,
So he's quite open about it, even though he's like mentally ill and he's a murderer. He's probably more down the lines of your sociopath then,
mhm,
because he needs acceptance of people. You see, he needs her to accept him.
mhm.
And when there's mental illnesses like that going on, look how dangerous they were. But it
Yeah,
also fits into then like the Sopranos and things like that, where the Sopranos is, everyone loves the Sopranos, but it's essentially about a sociopath. Now he's not a psychopath. The psychopath's Dexter, that's that series where psychopaths can't really attach to other humans. They don't get it. They've got no real human emotions. They're almost like robots.
mm,
But a sociopath needs to be accepted. They need to be in charge. So because Tony Soprano's mum is a narcissist and his sister is also a narcissist, every time he's around them, they make him feel like he's this little fat kid Tony again. But
yeah,
really, he's head of this big mafia family, and he takes all his anger out then because every time he feels hurt off his mum, and it's stuck with him, and it's almost his attachment to women and all these other things.
yeah.
Every time he feels that pain, rather than him dealing with it himself, he punishes people, doesn't he? Externally, he might kill
Wasn't
someone,
that
or he might.
that was like Goodfellas, wasn't it? The Jimmy the Shoe
Most
Shine
films,
boy.
most things like that are about that, aren't they? They're about
Yeah,
someone sort of not feeling enough. So who are they proving it to?
exactly. Um, just while we're on the subject of pop culture references, there's a really great series that Channel 4 did a few years back called I Am dot dot dot, and there was one called I Am Nicola. And I think you can actually watch the full episode on YouTube, or you can certainly watch clips of it, and I highly recommend people go and watch that because that is about a woman who's in a narcissistic relationship. And the woman, the female character, is played by Vicky McClure, who is in This Is England. She plays Lol in This Is England, if you've ever seen that. So yeah,
Oh yeah,
definitely well worth watching.
I feel like I might have seen it.
Yeah, but it's
There's
interesting.
another, there's another one on as well at the minute on ITV, Fake. It's an Australian one. It's really good. But even in that, it like, because I always go into the depth, so I want to know the root of the cause. If someone's in a narcissistic relationship now, where they've tend to have been in quite a few narcissistic relationships, it does tend to go back that the parent is a narcissist. So with men, it tends to be mothers. So if their mum was a narcissist, they will be drawn to narcissistic women because that's all they know is normal. So a girl who's not and a girl who's quite healthy minded, that'll feel quite alien to them. So they will be with someone who's still an abuser. Females do exactly the same. But
Yeah,
with females, it can be from like also from a mother or a father.
yeah,
So with females, a lot of the time, it sort of has that different effect because they're trying to find a man who they can punish because they couldn't punish their own dad for abandoning them or not giving them the right attention.
that's
Men
interesting.
do it more in a way of doing it to the mum, or it's like the film Psycho and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But an empath, you see, an empath will want to rescue the parent. They want to save the parent.
Okay.
But
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
narcissist wants to destroy the parent, but really they can't destroy the parent. They still want to be loved by the parent. So they'll look for a partner who'll give them that sort of father figure role or a mother figure role.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
But they
interesting.
abuse that, you see, because they see what they can get away with. But because this person's not the parent, they're the partner, that person will slowly get onto them.
Mm.
And then once they get onto them, they're then rejected. So see the self-sabotage.
You'd be right in saying as well with some narcissists that, we use the phrase there about seeing what they can get away with. Because I've definitely met people who've done that in life. But do you think some narcissists almost don't really care or they don't think about what they can get away with? Like that's not in their vocabulary because, as far as they're concerned, they're not doing anything wrong anyway.
Yeah. Because there's no empathy there. So they never, the way we'll sit there and try and imagine how someone else might feel or try and look through someone else's lens, they can't do that.
Mm.
They just can't do it. They can only see the world through their own like view. It's like a child. They can't imagine someone else's scenario. So as I said, they can come across as being caring, they can put an act on, but really they use that as ammunition. And every single one of my clients who've been in relationships with them, they'll say every time we argue, they literally say everything I've ever told them, and they use it all in a negative form because they're trying to break that person. They're trying to make that person feel so small, and they make that person feel unloved, and they make that person feel sort of abandoned because that's normally how they felt growing up. So see how they project it onto someone
Yeah.
else. They want you to feel how they felt, even though you're the person who tries to help them.
It's an interesting example. Think of John Lennon. I think we've talked about him before, but you think about him as a child, he was abandoned by his dad, wasn't he? And he
Yeah.
lived with his mum. And then his mum died when he was 17. And when Julian Lennon was born, I think John Lennon was something like 22, 23. I mean, even for the time, he was a pretty young parent. And he felt quite abandoned by his father, Julian Lennon, didn't he? Like he felt like
Yeah.
because John Lennon was all about, he professed it, to being all about peace and love and Julian Lennon was like, well, he never showed that to me. That was never part of our
Yeah.
relationship. Do you think there was an element of projection there from John Lennon possibly that he abandoned Julian just like he was abandoned?
Seeing young men, it's like when they become fathers too young, they can often run away from the problem
Yeah.
because they feel they're not man enough yet. They're not. They can't be responsible for themselves. So therefore, so it's not necessarily like narcissistic traits when that happens. It can be a different. Most men who don't want children will. It'll be for that reason because they doubt whether they'll be a good father.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, exactly.
Strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if
Well,
you doubt that you're going to be a good father, you might run away from responsibility.
yeah.
But over time, that's when you get like parents who've been like that. Sometimes they'll make brilliant grandparents.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like for me personally, it's like I've always seen the world where I've gone, I don't want other people to feel the pain I've felt. So I try and do things differently for other people. And you're only ever guessing. You can't always get it right and you'll get things wrong, but that's how you learn.
Well,
But when you trust narcissists and when you're sort of around narcissism throughout your life, you're more used to like mental health than you are normality. So you sort of attract them people who've got their own sort of mindsets on what they want, and they don't really give a shit what you want ever. So they'll often do things like when they're generous, they'll buy you tickets to go and see an event, but obviously they're coming with you. So see, the birthday present that they buy you is actually including them.
yeah. Yeah. They always
So
want.
is it for you, or is it their favourite band, or is it something they want to see?
Yeah.
But to the outside world, then they look generous, don't they? And you see it all the time on like the internet and stuff. People who've sort of got these disorders and things like that. It's like they will always look like they're doing a brilliant job with the kids, but in reality, they don't really want to spend any quality time with the kids. They're not very good at spending one-on-one time with children because they don't actually understand children. A
Yeah.
narcissist almost looks like at their own child, like it's a sibling.
Yeah.
They can be
Yeah. Yeah.
competitive over it. And in females, there's a lot of that where if the mum's a female narcissist, she will be jealous of the daughter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got to be honest. I feel like I've dated some women like that where their mom just sounds like a really horrible human being, and that's become quite obvious the more I've got to know the women who had that relationship with their mothers, and it's really sad. I feel like really sorry for them, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that program was on about that fake, that sort of the story, and that is that her mum was jealous of the relationship her daughter had with the dad.
Yeah.
And it's like the dad's past in it, and it's sort of that you see loads of parts in it where you see she's used to being treated like shit. So a narcissistic parent makes you feel worthless. You don't feel loved.
I know the perfect one. I was trying to think of the name of the movie. I'm going to stop with the pop culture references after this because we could talk about this all day. But like, um, this movie is called Lady Bird, and it's got Saoirse Ronan in it, and her mom. Again, I'd need to like watch it back, but my gut instinct is that her mom's got traits of narcissism. Although she writes her a really nice letter at the end, but the problem with her mom is she doesn't show her the love ever, and she always tries to belittle her. So when Saoirse Ronan's saying, "I want to go to New York, I want to study at university," I think it's art or something that she wants to do, and like her mum's like just telling her throughout the film, "You can't do that." She's taking her to like really shitty clothes outlets because that's all she deserves. Like constantly putting her down, never praising her. It's just, what a horrible, horrible relationship that must be. And that's a great example of what you've just said there.
See, a narcissist very good at using words because their words mean nothing.
Yeah.
So if they write a lovely letter, it's because they're good, that they're very delusional, so they're very creative in writing and things like that. It's like cards and things like that that people send, and it's like, who's it for? It's almost like the same as when someone dies in a funeral. It's like the person who died isn't there, are they? So when people have funerals, sometimes it can be about the person who's organising it more than the person who's died.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate that happens, isn't it? But that's the truth of it. And especially when people die, where families have then got to share money and they've got to, like parents and grandparents and stuff, that's when narcissists normally come out the woodwork because they're greedy, they want that thing. And
Mm.
it divides families so much because when narcissists are involved in a family unit, that family unit is not a good, healthy family unit.
Yeah.
It's very destructive, and there'll be different levels. Like a narcissist will quite openly say normally that they've got a favourite child.
Jesus. Yeah.
You get what I mean? And it's like there's so many unhealthy things where that child then can sort of then be punished for that because the others will resent it, and then they create competition.
Mhm.
So a narcissist, not necessarily that the eldest child or the middle child or the youngest. It can be all of them.
Mm.
It just depends on that upbringing. But most families will have one empath in the family, and they're the one who's probably gets it all, who's very serious and about like they see through the bullshit.
I'd love to know.
But
Yeah. I was
they're
going
the confrontational one normally. They're the one who sort of ask the questions they shouldn't ask, makes people accountable. A narcissistic family doesn't want to speak about it. What they do is people react and then everyone gets back to the path.
Yeah, because I was just thinking then, just as you were saying that, I'd love to know what percentage of children who grow up in narcissistic families or households where at least one of the parents is a narcissist actually go on to be either diagnosed with narcissism, although that's I don't think it's something that many people are actively diagnosed with, or how many go on to exhibit narcissistic behaviors and traits. I'd love to know what the percentages are. Like we'll probably never find out, but
But,
yeah.
but if you look into society and you think how many narcissists there will be out there, and you see all these people who are affected by it but don't have any understanding of it, because the word narcissism gets shouted about well too much.
Well, I
When
used to get called that. I don't mind telling you this, and it's you know this anyway, but saying this on the podcast. When I sought therapy for the first time a few years ago, I was thinking I was a narcissist because people had said to me, "You love being the center of attention," you know,
Mm.
and not knowing anything about it, I was really paranoid, and I thought, well, I obviously don't want to be a narcissist. I don't want to harm people around me, and so obviously, then I reached out, and it was like, you know and then it all got dissected obviously, but and then it was like seeing that that was a load of bullshit, but it was yeah, it really opened my eyes to what it truly was, because as I said, most people don't know this stuff and just assume it's, oh, they talk a lot or they like being the center, so that's all I knew about it at the time. I didn't know what it was.
But see, even if it was judged in that sense, it's like for a lot of men and women who are only children, they do get more attention than if they've got friends who've all got siblings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they might have had that little bit more attention put on them. They might have had these things, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're narcissistic. That just means that maybe they've had a lot more attention, so they might be used to it slightly.
Yeah.
So you might get someone like that, like yourself, where you've got plenty of empathy. So you're understanding and sort of you don't want to upset people, you don't want to cause this harm. So the way we speak to ourselves is very abusive. That can often reflect the narcissists that have been around us. So a lot of empaths will speak to themselves in a bad way, but they wouldn't dream of speaking to someone else that way. Now, they might do with reactive abuse. Reactive abuse is a connection to narcissism. So what a narcissist does, they will poke you and keep poking you and poke you till they get the reaction. Once they get the reaction, they use the reaction that you've used, and that dismisses everything they've done.
It's just
So
it's
I always break it down
wild.
to ABC. And this is the way the world works. If you like the newspapers work this way, so if you look at everything that happens as ABC, a narcissist will only ever concentrate on C, and C is the reaction. So A is the beginning, the start of it, B is like the middle part of it, and C is the ending.
Mhm.
So they never mention, a narcissist will never mention A and B.
Yeah.
And they're so callous and they're so like, that they're such liars that they will start their like sort of smear campaign quite early on.
Yeah.
So you'll have mothers who don't like being around their own child. Now that for me is terrifying.
That's scary. That's really
But,
scary.
but they'll be quite open about it. Oh, I can't wait to go to work. Can't wait to get away from this kid.
See, this is the thing, right? When I'm
Why do we validate though that behaviour? And that's the problem, isn't it?
But then there is a massive problem. And one thing that I want to say about that actually is, and I know of a few people who've done this now. I want to sort of check this with you because I'm sort of in this podcast, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions that the viewers themselves will be thinking about because, from the outside looking in, we really want to find out more about this. And one thing that really struck me from what you just said there is how many people I've met, obviously people my own age who are quite young parents, but I do also meet some older parents as well. How many of them even jokingly say, I can't be arsed spending time with my kids, or I can't be bothered with this, or they're a nightmare. Now, would you say that is that basically just one of those things where it's a bit of a bit of a joke, a bit of banter, or do you think there's something more sinister in it sometimes? Because I do look at it sometimes, and I remember I once dated a woman who had a daughter, like a really young daughter, like 1 or 2 years old. But the way she spoke about her daughter really scared me. It was like she was making out like the daughter was a burden, and to be honest, that I just
Yeah.
couldn't cope with that. So
But
what?
see, the kids feel that pain, don't they? The kids
Yeah,
feel that pain because they've got then a mother who doesn't sort of know, and that's humanity for you, really. Is that women, whether they want it or not, their body is made to reproduce. It's men cannot do this. Men will not be able to do this. Only a woman's body can do it. But their body is made to do that. So when the child's born, it's got 9 months in the womb, it comes out, it's already got the connection to the mother. So then if the mother when it's out the womb does not want it and detaches from it, that baby knows before it can even speak. And if that mum is quick to push the baby away, the baby will feel it. Now, if that baby hasn't got a father who's sort of loving and showing that care, then see the problem. Then that child is coming into the earth without a parent who really cares because they're caring about themselves more than the child. And a lot of people will have children for the status of it. And you get this more in like the middle class, the upper class. They'll have children, then they get nannies in, then they get this. So who's raising the child?
it's keeping up with the Joneses, isn't it? And the one thing I've always said, and this is something I feel quite, I don't have children myself, but I know a fair few people now who do. And one thing I always think in my head, and I have even said it to 1 or 2 people out loud, is if you're ever feeling frustrated because of the child, don't blame the child. That's not their fault. They didn't choose to be born. But a lot of parents will hold it against that child, and it's like, well, hang on a minute. You've made that decision. That's your responsibility now. Don't then go back on it and start blaming them or making them feel like shit because of your choices.
Yeah, and another one, so to sort of clarify on what you just said before, it's like, so parents can say things, but you've got to look at the actions. So if a parent's had they're tired that day and they go, oh, I can't be asked doing this, but the actions are they still give them a cuddle, they still put them to bed, then the words don't mean anything, but a narcissist means it. And when they say stuff, they're trying to get validation from people around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if they're trying to get validated by maybe another mum who's got to leave there, so they validate each other then, and they say, well, but children don't understand this. Children don't understand how the cost of living is so much money. So that child's going, well, where's me mum? And that's just a fact. Children need the mum so much during that child. They also need the father. The father's job is to protect them, whether you want to think it's old school or not. It's very much like I always mention it. If you watch like lions in the wild,
Yeah, that's a
the
good point.
female lion is the one who does the hunting. The female lion brings up the cubs, and the male just sort of dominates. His job is to protect, but the mum is very strong and she'll fight with him. She's got the strength, but the male knows his dominance will sort of be top level. He's the king he's the king, isn't he? So it always comes back to that protection. But when a child doesn't feel protected and then they don't feel loved, children do not understand money. The amount of clients I've seen over the years who say, I don't really care how much money my mum and dad have got. I just wish I'd have seen them growing up.
Yeah, yeah, you said that before, yeah. Yeah.
And that's sad, isn't it? It's sad
Well,
to the fact that people think they can buy the children and they can't. So the kids need that love and attention. They need that role model. And that's what we are as parents, is that you've got to be a role model to your kids. And it's not being perfect, because there's no such thing as a perfect parent. It's about being yourself, but understanding who you are as yourself and getting your child to be themselves. It's not about them copying off you. It's about them being themselves.
yeah, I think that segues perfectly into a question I had, which was around the behaviors and habits of a narcissist. So, what are the typical behaviors and habits of a narcissist? You have covered quite a lot of them in this, but if we had to sort of pick, I don't know, the top 5 or 10, that's an arbitrary number, but like let's go with just a handful of like the top behaviors and habits or tendencies, I guess, of a narcissist. What do you think those are?
So it's almost under the umbrella then of like these, what they call nowadays, red flags. So real red flags should be, and as I always say it, the number one thing is empathy. But it's not about words. Don't be mistaken by people's words. Look at people's actions. If someone says they really care about you and they're going to be, but they're not. Do you get what I mean? If someone says, oh yeah, like you could be going through a bad time and they make an effort for you, that shows you something then, doesn't it? It shows you've got a loyal friend. It shows that you've got someone who's going to support you. A narcissist will say they'll help you. They will say they'll be there for you. Because they haven't got empathy, they might use words as well. And everyone can use these words, so it's not always as a narcissist. As I said, don't trust words. But they might say, I've been worried sick about you. So then it's about them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, not
Yeah.
always just about them, but it's that part where, or oh, don't tell me I'll be worrying all that. So that person feels careful, but really they don't. They care about them. It's always about how they feel. They can't see it through your eyes. So with their own children, they don't have empathy. If the child's sick, they don't normally register if a child's sick. So there's like small things in childhood that you see. Uh, there's no, when I say about no support as well, it's also the fact that it's a competition. So if you've been to Tenerife, they've been to 11 Reef. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's always
I
they,
like that
they've always
example.
they've always got to have done one better than you, and it's almost like they've got this authority, like they make decisions. They might stand up when they talk and be demanding and go like, "I'm in charge here," but are they really?
Yeah.
You might get this in friends groups a lot. You'll get like a dominant male who sort of, but they're sort of childish and they're almost like a bully.
I've known people, and again, this is another question that I'm putting to you. Is this an example of it, like where they'll talk about? I've known people who talk about how much money they've spent on something, like, and they're so willing to say that, but it's like, well, we didn't fucking ask, and then they're almost saying it in a way to like belittle you because it'll be a lot of money on like a car they've bought or a holiday they've gone on. Would you say that's indicative of someone, or do you, or do you think it's difficult to
See,
tell?
that's a sign where it could be a narcissism, but all that that's doing a lot of the time as well, is proving someone's insecurity. So you might get an insecure bit. They're not necessarily a narcissist doing that, but they might feel insecure. Now, a narcissist teenager is the show-off teenager. So they're dead cocky. You can't tell them anything. They're always right. They'll argue with you over something. If they feel like they're losing, they'll throw a tantrum. They don't like losing. They're very jealous. So if you get a new car, they'll go and get a new car. It's all tit for tat things, you see. Or you get something new and they'll find a fault in it. And what I find, it's like, you know, hyenas, the way they laugh. Narcissists, male and female, they always seem to have like a very, very like crazy laugh.
Oh, do you know what?
It's like a fake laugh they do.
I've met people who, yeah, I could hear them a mile off. Like their laugh would just pierce through you. And to
But
be,
it's fake, isn't it?
yeah,
Do you know the
but
difference? No, but I'm on about the difference between a fake laugh and a real laugh. The very fake, you see. So they'll use a laugh as like a confidence. So say if you fell over, they're the loudest person you've ever heard laugh. So they want everyone to get, they love shaming people, you see. So it's about drawing attention, but it also makes them feel like the king. And I'll laugh, so everyone else must laugh.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I pick it up in them all the time. They've got this like real, like exaggerated laugh.
yeah.
I'm good at picking up on people's body language when something's genuine, when something it isn't, and they're not genuine. So when I look into a narcissist, when I look into their eyes, they don't really want me to look into their eyes.
Yeah, they're just
So
hollow.
they'll try and avoid that, yeah, because they're hollow.
Yeah,
There's nothing inside.
the reason I'm saying that is because I'm like, again, I'm doing a lot of psychoanalysis of people here, and that can be a dangerous thing. But I remember the MD of a company that I used to work for. You go out for a beer with him, and he would laugh at everything. But you know, when it was just like you'd actually look at the way he'd laugh, and he'd just go like that, and it was so
Yeah.
fake. And when you looked into his eyes, they were just empty. It was quite eerie, to be honest, because you'd be like, I nearly said his name then, fucking hell. But you know, it'd be like, you don't find that funny, so stop fucking laughing. You know, like, it's not that funny.
But see, that's the whole point. So they like mocking other people, but as I said earlier, they do not like people laughing at them.
Yeah.
So they love laughing at others. They love being like that. But as soon as the attention's on them, and it's that's another one of their red flags. Really, is that they like putting others down. They like judging other people. They like being above everyone. So you get it in all walks of life, as I said earlier. It's like you get it a lot in religion. You get it a lot in any jobs where they've got a level of power. So it's like when you're doctors and they sleep with patients, or anyone who's sort of in like a job where it's trusted, and they abuse that. They abuse trust because they always push boundaries. They don't like boundaries. And they're very contradictory, you see. So they live by all these rules. You can't do any of these things, but they can.
God, yeah. I mean,
Do you see what I mean? So there's no good relationship in it. It's all take from them. As soon as they've taken everything from you, they'll discard you.
how big of an impact can that have on someone's confidence and self-esteem if they are around a narcissist for a lengthy period of time? When I say a lengthy period of time, I mean, in my head, I'm thinking 5, 10 plus years. I mean, what can that do to someone's confidence and belief about themselves if they're around a
See,
narcissist?
unfortunately, if it's from childhood, for a lot of people, on average, it's probably around 20 years of that.
Yeah,
So they're completely brainwashed into that. And there's a very low number of people who sort of go sort of down the route I went. So I went down a route of sort of feeling more pain. So because I'm argumentative, because I stick up for myself, but that was not, I didn't have a choice in that. So that had to be created in me, where if I went down the other route, I would be like other people around me who were sort of, they were defeated. They had no backbone, they had no strength. And it's so sad to see that, because when you're an empath, you care for everyone, even people who cause you harm. You actually care for them still. You still hope, you still see the good in them. So you still hope they can change. You still hope that they're going to turn a corner. But that's what narcissists live off. You see, it's false promises. They sell you the dream that you're never going to get. And it's like they keep dangling a carrot and they keep moving that carrot. But you get used to it, you see. But it has such a negative effect on everyone who's around it. So no one gets out of it unscathed. It's impossible. And for generations, especially after the war and things like that, there was a lot of narcissism about, because people were in survival mode, you see. So they didn't pick to be like that. But for especially a lot of women, they had to be the one who was running the house. They had to be, the husband was off at war or whatever like that. So they had to take charge. And then they had kids, but the war was over by then. And then they had kids, and then they looked up to their parents, who were very controlling. And it's like this strong sort of cock of the house mentality. So you've either got the granddad who was the cock of the house type of thing, or the cock of the family, or the nan was. And it's like that control level then passes down. But if they then have kids who they don't teach how to be nice to each other and get rid of that, it'll stay, won't it? And it stays until you question it. And on average, in one family, only one person ever like puts their hand up for therapy. Therapy doesn't work for a narcissist, because there's no adult brain in them. They can't mature enough to get it. They can't get psychotherapy. They might like counselling if they find a counsellor who's going to validate them and go, "Oh my God, that's terrible. Oh my God, you poor thing." Where's the learning in that?
Oh yeah, there'll be loads of that, won't there? Like I'm going to make a really quick Schitt's Creek reference, pop culture reference again, where the main character David has this narcissistic ex-boyfriend who comes to see him in town where they live. I won't go into the plot because I'll be here all day, but he says something in it. He's like this photographer from New York, and he thinks the world of himself, and he's dead handsome and everything. And he's like, "My therapist taught me not to feel shame." And I'm thinking, like, you should feel shame. You're a fucking narcissist. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, but they don't, as you say, and
But see, they'll pick one word out of a sentence, so they'll just pick whatever word fits them. So you could say to a narcissist, "You absolute arsehole, you are like the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen," and be like, "Oh, whatever," and go into all detail. And they might find one part of it where they go, "Why would you say that?"
yeah,
Now, the part that it's weird, they're like kids. It's like with narcissists, they can often be offended more by swear words, where they'll say things which are cutthroat to you. So they'll try and destroy your personality. Their favourite one normally is to like they'll project that someone's trying to character assassinate them, when that's actually what they do.
oh yeah,
This is the thing about narcissists. You see, they project what they are. So they'll project into someone else all the time. So if they know someone's insecure, they will play on that and make that person more insecure. If they feel someone has got abandonment issues, they will abandon them more. But then they'll go round to other people and they'll use all like words like, there's loads of sort of fear mongering and scapegoat, and there's all these other things. So the family scapegoat is used to being a family scapegoat, aren't they? So they'll attract people who treat them like, a bit like a scapegoat, someone who'll take the brunt of it.
yeah. Well, I've experienced that in loads of relationships. Like, you know, especially when I remember at uni, especially, there'd be one or two people that I met there where it was like, and you'd get the whole thing of like, oh, I feel like this is a favorite catchphrase of narcissists, is like, I thought we were closer than that, or I thought we were proper friends. You know, clearly you don't think that, you know, making you feel really bad, you know, if something like, because sometimes you can reach the end of your tether with someone because you feel like with them, it's all take and no give. So you obviously then you put your foot down because you've had enough, and they'll go, "Oh, I thought you thought more of me than that." And that's quite a common thing that you hear in movies, isn't it? Like that's a classic line.
Because it's the brilliance at manipulation, you see. So if they want something from you and you say no, they will guilt trip you. But if you want something from them and you start that same mechanism of trying to guilt them, they wouldn't have it.
No, they don't. No, no. I know a few people that have been like that. They'll just completely shut you down, but then they'll do that exact same thing with someone else.
Yeah, it's like a one-sided relationship. The deal, so yeah, I'll describe it like a deal with a narcissist. It's almost like if you own your own business and you supply something, you then go in to a meeting and you go, right, I want to supply you with this item. And they go, great, but we're not paying for it. And you go, yeah, no problem, I'll supply you with it for free. But then they start making complaints and go, hang on a minute, this thing you're supplying for free is not that good.
Yeah.
Can you improve it? So you go, oh, no problem, I'll improve it. And they go, it's still not that good. So you're going to have to start paying us for supplying that. So not only do you supply it, you'd also pay for them as well.
And
So
do you know
you
what?
end up getting the worst deal ever, and then they hate you for that because they'll say, "Well, did you see that shitty item they gave me and paid me to use?"
They always
They're
twist it.
just not. They're just the most ungrateful people in the world. They don't practice gratitude because you see, they think they deserve it, and it's this grandiose nature of theirs, which obviously it's quite strong in females, but only up to a point. Once women hit menopause and like 40s and things like that, then it starts changing in women where you don't really see that change in men. As I said, men can stay narcissistic, grandiose, pretty much till death if they've got like their own
Yeah.
business, if they've got the right people around them. Whereas females struggle with that because of the looks. They depend on the looks a lot. The sort of, it's the outer image. And a narcissist, they look in the mirror and they literally hate that person. They hate aging. They cannot handle it. They're so vain that they see this beautiful teenager. Who is this old person I'm looking back at?
Yeah.
But they can't comprehend it. So they want attention, you see. So when it changes from, say, male attraction to then, well, how can I be a victim then? How can I be a patient? How can I be the vulnerable one? Because then it's just a change in attention. So they love attention. They're just attention driven because they seeked attention during childhood and never got it.
The difference between like someone, say, looking in the mirror and thinking, oh, do you know what? I could maybe iron out a few of those fine lines, or I could go to the gym and maybe lose a bit of weight. And someone who literally looks in the mirror and goes, I fucking hate you. You know, that what you're saying there, it's almost like an alter ego. And the way that they speak to themselves is then how they're going to speak to other people, and that'll manifest itself in really sly remarks. Like I know women who've been in relationships with men who said, "You look really fat." Like they just come out and say it, and then they'll control what they wear and all that because they just don't like the way they look. Is that an example basically of what you've
But
just?
yeah, but that's also when it's just the judgments they use. So that's a way of like sort of breaking you. So you get this a lot where females can be horrible about men all the time, and it's just accepted. So they can put someone down, and people can laugh about it, and people can. But if it was the other way round, people wouldn't like it. So if you're seeing it, and a lot of these gossip programs and like sort of reality programs, I really do think they're one of the main feeders for narcissistic women really who watch them, and sort of narcissistic men who watch them, because it feeds that ego that, look, life should be all this excitement, and it's fake. They don't realize it's a program. They don't realize that it's scripted to be entertainment. So a narcissist will constantly think that life should be exciting, but rather than supply the excitement themselves, they want the world to, because don't forget, they're the king or queen. So they want to be entertained. They constantly thrive for like causing mayhem. They cause chaos and then sit back and go, it wasn't me, it was them.
Do you think there's a correlation between the rise of reality TV and the rise of narcissistic people? Do you think that there are more narcissistic people now because of this celebrity culture, because of the reality TV that we see all the time?
Yeah, and also a lot, and I've got to watch what I say here, but also with a lot of feminists, because it's, as I said, I'm not on about men being harmed. I'm on about children. So boys and girls being harmed by having narcissistic mums. If the person who's give birth to you shows that they're not really asked about you, that anyone with common sense must go, that's not going to be healthy for that child. Now, we can live in hope that you're going to have empaths, but empaths are a lot more rare than narcissists. We live in a world where we've got most people are just sheep. They just sit on the fence. They don't want to get involved. So when someone's a victim, then who's helping the victims? Quite often, victims are labeled the ones who are the bad ones. Victims are because the narcissist is very good at like getting a witch hunt together.
Yeah.
So that's why I always say to people, try not to judge so quickly. Try and be open-minded before you jump into something, because otherwise, are you believing your own opinion, or you believe in what you've been told?
Well, the world
I
is
trust my own
like,
opinion. So if
yeah,
a person come up to me and said, don't like them, I wouldn't take their word for it. I'd just know that they don't like them. Now, if I spoke to that other person, I'd tell that person, because I wouldn't want them to think I was two-faced. And as I've always said with me, if I say something behind someone's back, there's not a chance that I won't say it to the face. Of course I will,
yeah.
because that's my mentality. If I say something behind someone's back, I will 100% say it to their face. But most people won't, you see. So they'll validate bad behaviour, and it's almost talking behind people's back. Whereas, especially when I was younger and stuff with my mates, if I was ever talking about someone and then they turned up, I'd be like, I've just been talking about you, because I wouldn't want it to ever get back to them that I wasn't. Now, I've been wrong loads of times in my life. I've been opinionated, but I've learned to change. I've learned how to sort of, my opinion isn't fact. That's just maybe my opinion, and to hold back on certain things because I have understanding and empathy and I don't genuinely want to upset someone else. But if someone's attacking me, then you've got to learn your own protection. You've got to set boundaries. Now, a lot of people who come to me, if there's a narcissist in their life, they get this awareness and they're like, right, so how do I set boundaries with them? And they think it's an external thing you can do. You cannot start introducing boundaries to a narcissist if you've never had them. Because they will go, who the hell do you think you are? Do you think I'm going to respect you? This is how I treat you. Take it or leave it. And that's sometimes the best option for people, because a lot of people then go down the route, will go, well, I'll leave it then. Because what you'll find is, and anyone who's questioning whether they've got a narcissistic friend or whatever like that, think about it. If that person phones you every time they've got bad news, but every time you phone them, they maybe not answer or they don't care, or you might tell them some of your bad news and they top trumps it, don't they?
Yeah, I've definitely, again, this is, I don't want to turn this into a therapy session around me, but just from like my perspective, I know a few people who will phone me or will get in touch with me or have in the past, talking all about them and their news. But see, when I've given them my news, they haven't really given a shit. And then they've just gone on to
Yeah.
talk about themselves. And you just think, like, I've, again, I'm not going to say that this is a hallmark of narcissism, because I don't personally think it is. But like, when you go out with people, like say to the pub, you have a few pints with them. I've met loads of people like this over the years, and they don't ask you a single question about you, but they talk about themselves all night. Now, I don't.
Yeah.
Again, was that one of those that you'd say is a trait of a narcissist, or is that just people who just, for whatever reason, don't give a
I
shit?
mean, as I said, it does always link back to not the words but the actions. So if someone generally isn't asked about you, but they want to sit in the pub with you and say that you're the friend, whereas for me, I'm a very deep person. I genuinely want to know, because then I understand them better. I understand how
Yeah,
someone works better.
exactly.
So having that empathy then helps you, and they feel it. So they feel at ease speaking to you, and they know for a fact that you're not really going to use it against them.
Yeah,
See the difference? They don't hold that against you. Whereas when a narcissist's doing that, they're sort of getting a use out of you. So they don't want to look like Billy No Mates, so they will go and sit in a pub. And you'll know these people, it's like there's nothing behind the eyes, so they'll never talk about anything that's deeper than surface level.
oh yeah.
They'll never go. It's like friends who you've had for years and you know nothing about the person's life, but yet they know everything about yours.
And that's probably intentional, isn't it? In a way, that's probably their way of like holding that against
That's
you.
it. Yeah, because see, you're teaching them how to attack you if you like when you're feeling vulnerable. A narcissist will often kick you when you're down. That's another one.
Yeah, yeah,
Like they love seeing people suffer. It's like a teenager where like they see someone else getting into trouble and they're sneaking up to the mate and they're all giggling and laughing.
yeah,
That is essentially them. And there's loads of people out there who've been affected by them who can see them and they hate being seen. So if you shine a spotlight on them once again, it's the fireworks. The fireworks will explode. Their worst nightmare is someone revealing who they actually are, someone who actually sees them. So that's why most narcissists, they do not last if they come to me. They like psychotherapy. They don't like, because psychotherapy is about taking responsibility for your own actions. Yeah, we can be damaged by other people, but still got to take responsibility for our side of it. We've still got to understand how we change and to be a good person and how to sort of spread that. A narcissist doesn't do that. A narcissist comes because they want someone to say, here's an excuse. And as I said earlier, if they get diagnosed with ADHD, they get, oh, well, that's my excuse now. As an adult, it's not an excuse getting a diagnosis. It's just, it's a description of your behaviour. Now, as I said, you can be diagnosed with something, but then as an adult, you can change the effects on it. It might be gradual, it might be slow, but you can do that. I do this all the time, do it with my clients all the time. So I've had plenty of clients who've been diagnosed with things, and then by the end of the therapy, they go, I don't really feel like I've got that now,
yeah. We talked
because
about
it doesn't affect me the same way.
You've had
So
some
ADHD tends to come from childhood. It's not getting the right attention.
Mhm.
Now, the parents might not have had the right attention, so therefore they don't know how to teach the right attention. So rather than us communicating as a family unit and say, what does this child actually need? What will help them? Let's speak to them. But if we judge them and go, well, that's just their fault, there's no solution in it then, is there? So a narcissist loves having their kid diagnosed because then they go, oh, well, they're naughty and it's their fault. It's because they've got something wrong with them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's an
But
easy
I don't see that.
out,
I
isn't
don't
it?
see something wrong with them. I think, what are they missing? What does that child need missing? And as parents, we don't know we've got all the answers, but you need to communicate with your child, so you need to know what they need. So if a child needs reassuring all the time, it's normally because they're missing a parent.
Yeah.
If a child needs to be told they're loved all the time, it's an insecurity.
We've
So
talked.
there's normally already abandonment issues in that. So when a child goes through abandonment from the mothers, it's far worse. This is under the age of 7, by the way. It's far worse for them than the dad not being there all the time. Because as far as man goes, like you go back in time with man would have always had to go out and and hunt and collect water and do all and get firewood. They're not expecting a 9-month pregnant woman to do it who's just give birth.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, yeah.
So they're meant to protect the woman while she is in that vulnerable position of being like ready to give birth or giving birth. So that is a man's job. But men in general have got more empathy for that because that's why men want to stick around. That's why men want to pay the bills. That's why men are willing to sacrifice most of their life to make money to pay for these people. So men, for years and years, missed out on seeing the kids growing up.
Well, we've
And
talked
then the
about this.
kids suffered because they didn't understand money. Do you see my point?
Yeah, no, I do. We've actually talked about this before, and I was really interested by what you said there because it ties in with something else we've talked about. I don't think we've mentioned it on a podcast, but we have spoke about it in person before. This whole idea of kids when they go to boarding school and they're not around the parents, and that teaches
Yeah,
kids who go on to become like doctors and lawyers to
yeah.
think objectively and be good in emotional situations, but at what cost? You know, so maybe there's
And
an
to lack
element.
empathy and to sort of detach.
Yeah,
So this is why when you can't get an honest answer out of an MP because they're educated to be emotionless. They're not seeing it through the working class pair of eyes. They never are. So we live in a democracy, do we? Or are we voting for people who all went to school together who've got no empathy?
would you say that's one of
Yeah,
the most common occupations that lends itself to narcissism? Because one thing I didn't have written down, but I'd like to ask you is like, what kind of jobs do you think? You mentioned actors before,
yeah.
MP. I mean, is there any others that we
Police,
could?
police is a big one. The police, firemen, doctors, all jobs of importance. And I'm not saying every single person in that,
Oh,
but any job that comes with a title is attractive to an artist because it's about my son's a fireman, my son's a policeman, do you know what I mean? But really, are they an arsehole? Are they a narcissist? So you'll get loads of, say, like we'll use police, loads of police who are brilliant, who are full of empathy, who are doing a good job. But then you get the old school ones, it tend to be the old school police more, who were arrogant, they were bullies, weren't they?
yeah.
And people used to say to, oh, you bet they were bullied at school. They probably were. They were probably bullied back, but then they needed to feel power. You get it a lot with, like, it seems to be a lot in men as well who maybe go through a stage in childhood where maybe they were overweight at some point or they're really hard on themselves. And then all of a sudden they start going to a gym and you see this in gyms all the time. And now all of a sudden they think they're like Johnny Bravo or something and like they love themselves. And they have this level of arrogance where they start treating people like shit because they think they're a king now. So these negatives, as I said, it's like a switch inside the human mind for males and females. And if you switch it the wrong way, where you want to punish the world, you are in for pain. It's
Yeah.
a false prophecy that you're going to have this great life. Because a narcissist's never happy, you see. So even a grandiose, they're never happy. And that's why all these billionaires who are narcissists, they're addicted to power. Like
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Why do we celebrate rich people so much? There should be no poverty on earth. If we've got so many rich people now,
Yeah, I
why
agree.
is there any poverty?
I
But
agree.
it's because they all lack empathy. So they go, no, I need more money because I want to be more powerful
How can
than
how
Jeff
can
Bezos. They're like,
it does my head in when people defend them as well, like people who've not got anywhere near that level of wealth defending Elon Musk's net worth. Like, nobody in the world needs to be worth 200 billion. Like they should just give that money away. They like I really believe that when you get to like 1 billion or 2 billion net worth, money is just completely irrelevant. Like what like maybe fucking maybe 199 billion out of 200 billion is a bit extreme, but like, you know, even tax 2% of their wealth, that would eradicate poverty overnight. It would. And I hate when
But
people
look,
try and
but look at the economy if they've done that. So if you had a billionaire from say like each country who invested into sort of the poorer communities and sort of got people. And I'm not just on about giving people money. I'm on about sort of trying to inspire people and giving them a better way of life. So it's like teaching them how to fish rather than give them a fish. But in that case, they'd be investing in people. They create a better economy because people would be earning more money. We'd be sort of creating a better lifestyle. I think it's Kevin Bridges, the comedian. He does this part, like a skit on it, where he says, like, if you give people on benefits £1,000 a week, they will fucking spend it
yeah.
because they don't live for the future of going, oh, they said they'd have jacuzzis, they'd have all these things. But that money would be getting pumped back into society. But what we do is we like seeing people suffering because, see, the narcissistic people, they feel like they're doing better. So they love seeing people suffering, don't forget.
I've
So
said
while people suffer, it makes them feel like they're doing better. Oh, look at that poor person over there. I'll give them £1 or I'll give them a tenner.
Have you seen the sketch with Rupert Murdoch and the cookie and the builder? So this is classic divide and conquer. This is what they want, and this is why I think they don't teach things like financial education much in schools. Because if everybody figured that out, the whole system would be different. But what you've got in this cartoon is you've got Rupert Murdoch sat at the head of the table with a plate full of cookies, like right to the top. Then there's a guy to his left on the right of the cartoon where it's like a builder with one cookie on his plate, a white British guy with a hard hat on, and then there's a foreign guy, like an Asian guy, across the other end of the table with no cookie, just a plate. And Rupert Murdoch's like whispering, "Hey, that foreigner wants your cookie." It's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, that's just a classic example, isn't it?
But look at the news and look what the society have done. It's dog eat dog. Why do we live in a dog eat dog society?
Mm.
It's almost like zombie land in a way where people are so obsessed with being liked by people they don't know.
Yeah.
But if people who do know you don't like it, doesn't that say something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you're false and if you're fake, people never like you for being you. It's sad, isn't it? And this is what it's like for a narcissist, you see. When people like them, the person who they like isn't real.
Yeah.
Whereas for someone who's genuine, they're being genuine. So people either like it or they don't. Not everyone's going to like it. That's okay, isn't it?
I'm fine with that idea, mate. Honestly,
But
like,
we should have a reason. We should have a reason not to like someone. Now, with a narcissist, they might not like you because they're jealous of you. If you've got more money than them, if you're doing better than them, they don't like you, but they're meant to be your friend. I had a client a few years ago, and I'll change the story a bit, so I'm not revealing anything. But so, say he comes in to see me, and he tells me he booked a trip to Barbados. So he's going to Barbados with his family, and it's cost him, say, 15 grand. But then his best friends have literally just won a trip to Barbados for free. And he come into the session and he was raging.
yeah.
He was so unhappy. This is his best friends who he described as his best friends, him and his partner's best friends. And he's like, but I've paid all this fucking money. Why are they getting to go to Barbados? I'm paying for all this. It's my money. I've worked hard to get it. And why do they get it for free? This is his best friends.
And how do you approach a conversation like that as a psychotherapist? Like, what
So
do you say?
you've got to walk on eggshells a lot with narcissistic clients because they're looking for a negative and then they won't come back.
Yeah.
If they disagree with what you say, they don't like it, and that's where the relationship normally comes to an end. So in that, I had to sort of get them to understand that they've entered a competition and they've won it, and why, like, you're not happy for them at all, and sort of get them to see. Whereas I think because my reaction, that's when I really actually knew that he was a narcissist, because I was doubting myself a little bit that he was, but there was a few things that had made me believe he was. But from that point on, I seen that he couldn't be helped.
Mm.
Like, no matter how many things we worked on, and he'd sort of come up with the solutions, and then he'd apply it, and it was never good enough. he would just seek attention all the time. And it was sort of, I got onto this through my supervision, and you've got to see supervision once a month when you're BACP registered. So my supervisor sort of said, it's like his mum used to rub him on the head when he was younger. And she said, it's almost like he wants you to rub his head now. And that straight to me, that was like a wake-up call going, fucking hell, yeah. When I'm validating it, I'm like rubbing his head. Whereas once I started getting him to try and see it from a different perspective, that's when he stopped coming.
Yeah.
Because at first he kept coming in with all these issues, and I'm like, obviously I'm listening, and I'm showing empathy and understanding, and going, fucking hell, this fella's having a bit of a hard time here. But in everything he told me, he was always the victim, and he took no responsibility.
That's what I
And
was.
then,
That's
you
what.
know what? Where they always slip up, as I said before, they always slip up because they're liars. Now, with someone like me, I literally remember everything what someone says. Like my brain, it remembers too much. It like overloads on remembering everything. So when someone's lied to me, it stands out. It's like it lights up as if to go, well, why have they just lied to me? And when someone's lying to you, especially in a counselling session, in a therapy session, you start thinking then, someone's paying to speak to me, honestly, but yet they want to lie to me. Now, that can happen if someone's insecure, so don't get me wrong, that's not necessarily just because they're a narcissist, but a narcissist will do it because they want to be like a good client.
Mm.
Whereas I say that you don't have to be anything, you just be you. But see, they want to be a good client, they want to be a good pupil. So in narcissism, you can get some kids who are rebels, who get bad attention. So they won't be good at school, they won't be academic. But then you get a lot of other narcissists who are very academic. Because the idea of a narcissist, that they make quite good sheep. They sort of stand in line. They sort of, look, miss, I'm a good one. Look, I'm the good one. But then throughout their life, they constantly need that recognition. They constantly need someone blowing smoke up their arse, if you get what I mean. Whereas an empath, someone might say, well done on that, but they don't take it in because they're so self-critical of themselves, not of others.
Yeah.
There's loads of synchronicities, and this is where people go wrong, you see, because people can have traits, but they're not necessarily narcissistic. That's why I always keep bringing it back to
Yeah.
they don't have empathy. If you always remember, they cannot see the world through your perception. So if you've got to over-explain something to another adult, something very basic, and they act as if they don't get it, but they're intelligent, that's normally a manipulation tool. That's to waste your time. That's to get, they like seeing you squirm, you see. They like seeing you in awkward positions. So they want you to explain yourself to them. But see how you're putting them on a pedestal? You're explaining yourself to the king or queen.
That's like an unequivocal uh, sign of a narcissist. Like that if someone does that, it's pretty much like, because you've said people can have traits without actually being
Yeah,
a narcissist. But what you've just said there, like an inability to see the world through anyone else's eyes but their own,
yeah,
and also playing games with it like that. You think
yeah.
that
They love mind games, you see. Mind games is part of the tit for tat that they live. So they're so delusional, though, and it's like, this is the problem, is that they believe everything they say. So they can pass lie detectors and things like that. If you watch stuff in America about it, where they put them on, like,
that's scary.
see, a narcissist is like, it goes from narcissism to like sociopath, then psychopath. Now, there's a lot of narcissists who are actually not really narcissists, they're sociopaths. Now,
Yes.
that doesn't mean they kill people, it doesn't mean,
What
what, sorry.
what are the biggest differences actually? That was something I wanted to ask earlier. So you got a narcissist and a sociopath. How do the two differ and overlap?
So a narcissist, although they're still poisonous and they're still out for themselves and they're very childish, they're quite tame. Like, they might apologize, they might sort of like, so they cheat on the partner, which they always do. They might apologize for that, and then everything goes back to normal. So you get this in males quite a lot, where the partner will forgive them a little bit, but it's dealt in different ways. Where if a female narcissist cheats on a male, they don't tend to get back with them. Males just tend not to get back with a partner who's cheated, where females tend to get back with them because it's this, like, the wildlife again. It's like lions. If they see their male is getting other attention, they still want them. So see that self-sabotage in it.
Yeah.
Whereas men tend to go, no, I don't want you anymore. Because
Yeah.
men have got this instinct in them a lot more. Where, like, another example, so a narcissistic male whose partner's pregnant, they are like well more likely to cheat while the partner's pregnant. Now, why do you think that'd be? Or when the baby's young?
Well, yeah, because is it? I mean, I'm trying to think now. It's like they want to keep that sense of power and control like they can have whatever they want, kind of thing. I know, I don't know. I don't know actually. I'm trying to think of like a coherent answer to that question. Why would a narcissistic person cheat on a pregnant partner? Is it, I don't know, is it preying on their what they see as a weakness maybe in the woman
It's
because
jealousy.
jealousy?
Where's the attention? Where's the attention?
Yeah. Wow. So they're jealous of so they're jealous
Well,
of
they're not getting the same attention. That the partner who's pregnant is sort of going through this pain and stuff. So they'll often cheat on that. But in females, they'll often cheat when the child's like getting into toddler years because their child's getting the attention then. So they want attention off of the males. It's so sad because they're destroying kids' lives because of their sort of inability to be mature. So
yeah,
if they're attention seeking all the time, they'll and what you'll get in a lot of narcissists, and I've heard a couple of narcissists say this in my life, and psychopaths even say it. It's like it's it's sort of you don't admit it till the end. You take it to the death. They'll never admit responsibility, and that's scary. When you're around people who've got that mentality, it's really like I've only heard a couple of people ever say it in my life, and they have been at that level. So for me, I've always been very like sort of I don't know. I've always felt quite safe around narcissists. I've always felt because I've been around them my whole life, it's quite normal to me. But
yeah,
I've always felt like the outsider. I've always felt like the black sheep because when you are that, you're different. You question things in a different way. A narcissist hates anyone who questions anything. So if you look at the way the news reports do it, anything that anyone questions, they almost become a sort of conspiracy theorist. But isn't that basically what a scientist is? A scientist is someone who questions something and then comes back with data. Now, in this society we live in, if you say anything outside of the realm of what everyone's agreeing on, you're a conspiracy theorist or you're weird, you. So see how easily you're dismissed for being different. So the idea of a narcissist, if they can control it, they can get minions. That's why a lot of these films, it's all connected to how it works. It's like Despicable Me. It's like the minions. They're like the flying monkeys.
yeah,
They do all the sort of the crazy stuff and things like that. So a narcissist will surround themselves with basically weak people, people who don't question anything, people who go, "Oh my god, oh that's terrible." That. Oh yeah, I hate them too.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're looking for this loyalty, but as I said earlier, it's a one-sided relationship. So the people who they seek loyalty off, they never give back. They don't understand the word loyalty. Their only loyalty to themselves is to themselves. They
yeah,
haven't got the same loyalty to the kids. So as I'm saying all the time, and I shall always take it back to this, the work I do is the damage that's caused in children. So adults can deal with it in a different way, but when children are sort of around narcissism from the off, or sociopaths or psychopaths, it's so dangerous. But as a society, we sugarcoat people, and quite often you'll see that. Like another example of a narcissist, I've had this off loads of my clients. They'll go to like a party, and then as soon as the party finishes, this can be whether it's a parent or a partner, like they can have a great time at the party. And the empath, who's the partner, who's normally coming to me, they'll be like, "Oh, that was good, wasn't it?" The narcissist gets in the car and just rants. Did you see them people? Did you see this? And straight away, it's a fight because what they don't realize is that the narcissist is jealous. They want the attention back on them.
yeah,
They'll
yeah.
take over other people's parties. They'll sort of try and ruin events as well for people. They're the person who turns up late for a wedding and makes a big ordeal.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've once, well, see, it depends who's watching this. If I don't think the person that I'm going to say this about is going to watch this, but perhaps our mutual friend will. But I'll never forget when I was at the pub with four, I say friends. One of them I don't really count as a friend anymore, but I was at the pub with four people, and when one of them went to the bar, we'd been to his wedding, and as he was at the bar getting a drink, this guy, and you'll know which guy I'm talking about because I've mentioned him to you in private before. He goes, "Oh, that was a bit of a waste of time, that wedding, wasn't it? It's so much money just for one day. Like, what a waste of time." And I'm like, "This is our fucking friend whose wedding you've just been to, the best day of his life. And you're talking about him and his wedding like that when he's at the fucking bar. He's literally about 10 yards from us." And then he came back with the drinks and I had to go, "Shh, shut up. like that. He's going on about how it's a waste of time. Why would anyone get married? Blah, blah, blah. And it's just, you know, I think I knew why he said that, but it was just horrendous. I
But
could not see.
even if that wouldn't necessarily always say that person's a narcissist, but it's the part of they could be childish, they could be insecure, they could be jealous in themselves of, well, so if someone's single and all their friends are getting married, they could be a little bit jealous in that sense, or they look at themselves and go, why me? Whereas a narcissist will go, why are you doing that? But like, it's a judgment. See the difference? Whereas someone who's insecure might say it because it's making them feel bad
And he
because they're
even
not.
this is where the plot thickens. He even said to the guy who's getting married, why are you marrying her? He said, oh, it's a big mistake. That I just, that's mad that someone would have the guile to fucking say that to another person. But there we go.
But see, you get this a lot, and especially with people with weddings and things like that. Like you'll notice for when there's like groups of friends, you'll get quite a few people getting married within a short period of time of each other because it's sort of the in thing to do. But a narcissist loves a wedding because they love the attentions on them. But they don't mean the vows, they don't mean the part of it because for them, a lot of the time for a narcissist, a marriage is just sort of like it's like a front. It's like one of these criminal shops, which is just the front, which is laundering money. The shop's always empty, but it seems to make loads of money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So for a narcissist, they can often like cheat more being with a partner because to the world they look like this like loyal husband or loyal wife, but they're not really. No one really knows who they are, so they're like a double agent. They live in a secret life, but it's very childish because when they get found out, because they always do, they tend to not admit it. And then quite often, especially for females as well, they suffer more because, as I said earlier, they don't want to believe it. So they're quite deluded. So they might not, and this is like an empath, they might not believe that the partner's a cheat, or they might not believe this because they don't want to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're with someone who's a compulsive liar, like it's not normal behavior to go out and sort of do things behind someone's back, knowing you could destroy a family unit, is it? So that's for someone's own personal gain.
Yeah.
But it's almost like they can be addicted to it. So it's like also for the same for like people who drugs and gambling and things like that. Narcissists can be quite reckless, especially with money.
Really?
Because in their head, they're a king or queen, so they can spend money how they want. So they put, but as I said, it's greed, isn't it? So they push boundaries on everything. They've got no limits, really. There's no real like consequence for them.
Yeah, like sort of. So see when you go out and you see people who are driving absolute like top spec cars and they might have I've seen it sometimes where I've seen people drive up onto a driveway and the house looks like it's worth about the same as the car, but like they're really
Yeah.
overextending themselves. And there's that whole thing like people always go on about, and I know it sounds quite judgmental to say this, but there's quite a lot on social media about the Live Laugh Love Brigade, with like loads of crushed velvet everywhere and turkey teeth and all this kind of stuff, loads of big expensive cars on finance. Do you think that could be, and again, I don't want to psychoanalyze people here, but do you think that could be an indicator of narcissism?
A lot of what we're talking about, this is how close it gets, you see. So a lot of what we're describing can be insecurities, which a lot of the time it is. If you're from a poor background, it's new money, what they call it, isn't it? So when it's new money, get this in football players, that doesn't necessarily mean they're narcissists, but when it's new money, they want to have the things that they didn't have. So it's what they view, though. So they might have looked at a car when they were a kid and go, I want that car, I want this. Yeah. Whereas, like, even someone who maybe thought they were ugly and now they can afford to get new teeth, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a narcissist. But with narcissists, they tend to age badly, as I said before. So they'll be the people who are fighting, like, age. So they might look fake, they might look really fake, but they've got that arrogance about them. Like, they still think that, like, the sort of mutton dressed as lamb and things like that type of thing, what they used to say years ago. It's like it's a false belief. So when they look in the mirror, they see something amazing. Do you know what I mean? And they want that attention. But deep inside, they're not nice people, they're hollow. So they can never be fulfilled. And because there's a constant takers, like, there's no like happiness in it for them really, but they pretend there is.
I'll give you a great example. You look at someone like, and look, I'm pretty sure Rennie Zellweger will not be watching this podcast. So, you know, we talked about Zelensky before. By the way, Zelensky and Zellweger, if
Yeah.
you watch
I
it,
wasn't more about him watching. I was more about people who support
yeah, imagine, yeah, yeah,
like the war type of thing. You know?
yeah. Please don't hold us
But
to
see,
these views, you know. But look,
so let's pretend she is watching. God.
oh, well, yeah. So if you're watching Renee, you look fucking ridiculous. Because I mean, you look at her now in Bridget Jones. She's obviously looked at herself and done exactly what you said earlier, where it's like, I absolutely hate how I look. You then contrast her with Hugh Grant. Look at how well Hugh Grant has aged. I don't think Hugh Grant has done anything to himself. He's just aged naturally. He looks great. But you get some people in Hollywood like Zellweger, but there's loads of other examples where you think, why have you done that to yourself? You've just destroyed yourself.
I'm glad you said Bridget Jones then, because I couldn't picture which actress you meant. So yeah, so
Yeah,
I don't know what she looks like now, but I mean, even in that, it's like when you're in that industry, it is very judgmental, and you have got to look a certain way. But yeah, it's each to their own, isn't it? And that's not necessarily always narcissism and things like that. It's the arrogant ones where sometimes you hear about celebrities who they're very friendly, they're very funny, they're very charismatic, but behind closed doors, they're horrible to the people around them. They're
yeah,
horrible to their own kids, they're horrible to the partners, they're abusive and all these other things. So what you're getting to see is the shiny side of them. Now, with a narcissist, that's what they're like. So when they're in public, they can be great, but behind closed doors, they're angry all the time, they're upset. Now, their mentality is always to be better than you. So as I said, if they're in a bad mood, they make it about you. And an empath will always be the one where I hear this off clients a lot, where they'll say to the partners, "Are you okay? Is there something I've done?" And the
yeah,
partner will go, "No." And then they might go to them, "Is it something I've done?" And then the partner goes, "Yes, it's this. And they just totally destroy them.
yeah.
Now that's because they're having a bad day. And then the next day, the narcissistic partner wakes up like nothing's happened.
Mm.
But the victim of them is emotionally drained. They're knackered because they're like, hang on, I've just been slaughtered by this person. And each time they do that, they make the partner that little bit more insecure. But then they play on that, you see. So they love you being, and they love a partner being diagnosed with a mental health, because then it's an excuse, isn't it?
Yeah, God, yeah, it's just
So they're quite often to go and get diagnosed, or maybe it's your fault. I've had loads of clients over the years who've come to me because the partners have said, I think you're a narcissist, you need to get therapy.
oh
I've
yeah,
had loads of
yeah,
clients over the years who've done that.
that does happen quite a bit. I've yeah, I know of that as well. Like when people have said that, and it's usually, you know, it's ironically, isn't it, the people who need therapy who usually say things like that. But you know, as we've
But
covered,
that's another red flag, is it? It's people who sort of, once again, they lack the empathy, but they lack the understanding, and having to over explain to someone emotions and things like that. It's like, if you've got to explain someone shouldn't be negative about a situation, why are you doing that? Are they not just telling you who they are?
yeah,
Because
no,
as I said, they're attention seekers. Now, with narcissists, they don't like being second choice. So they've got to be number one. And this is where problems start with them, you see. And it's all like this sort of, that's where the mental health side of it comes in, because they become sort of very abusive, and they do it covertly a lot of the time. So they attack people behind closed doors, they attack people's characters, they sort of get people to create a witch hunt. Now, when they do that to the victim, and society also validate that, this is where we're going wrong, you see, because we keep validating bad behaviour of people, whereas as adults, we should say, no, that's wrong. And
yeah,
if you love someone or you care for someone, you need to, and you think they're your friends or you think they're a family member, you should have a relationship where you can point wrong things out to them. If you've got a family member where you can't point out something wrong, that is a red flag. If someone doesn't accept responsibility, like most teenagers, they go through a period of narcissistic stage, but as I said, they've still got a lot of empathy, a lot of them. But you try and tell an 18, 19-year-old anything, and they're like, no,
yeah,
because they've got this confidence level where they know everything. Now, as an adult, as you mature, I love the fact that I don't know everything. I know that I love the fact that I don't really know anything about anything. I know a small part, but there's so much we can learn. There's so many. Every action we take, you've got to learn from it. So that's part of maturing, and that's what we should do. A narcissist can't do that. So when you do it, they hate you for that. So anyone who's sort of come to me for therapy if there's narcissists in their family normally or around, and that narcissist will tend to hate me
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Were you
because they don't like that their supply isn't the same anymore.
Am I right in saying as well, like you've obviously talked before about the guy whose friend won the holiday to Barbados with his family, but you have actually had people come in to see you, haven't you, who you feel have tried to suss you out? Obviously not naming names or anything like that,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you've had narcissists come in. Do you want to just
yeah.
talk a
Well,
little bit more
yeah.
about that
So
and what happened?
obviously, again, with the confidentiality, it was a company, two females running a company, and one of the females was coming to me for therapy, but they weren't speaking anything really about the business partner. So the business partner then was like, "Oh, I'd like to go to them. They sound really good." But then, as they'd sort of booked in, this first client had had an appointment where they'd been like uh, speaking about the partner, and I was like, "Listen, there's going to be cross wires here, so maybe I can just see what this first session is like and sort of maybe cut ties there." Now, this partner come in and they were like, literally, they were lying about stuff. They were exaggerating stories. Now, for me, I was just, as I said, that can just be someone's insecurity. They might be just trying to impress you. But I did get the impression straight away, this is a narcissist who's going to try and sort of diminish the work I do and sort of get the other person to go, "Oh, you actually listening to them?"
Yeah,
Because they could be helping them, you see. Now, fortunately for me, the client who was my original client, they come back and said exactly what had happened, and I was like, sort of predicted it because that's how they work. They're so sneaky. They'll try and if they see something's better for you. So if you got a new friend, they don't like that.
yeah.
So they'll sort of blacklist that, and you do it in parents as well. So it's like a narcissistic parent will hate all your friends.
Right.
The jealousy of friends, or they'll copy, or they'll do things. And as I said, it's like they're in competition. So it's like the kids sort of doing their A levels. You might get the narcissistic parent going back to school to study their A levels
Yeah.
just to do better than the kid. Weird, isn't it?
Yeah, that is really
But,
weird.
but there's so many patterns of behaviour. Like obviously, I could talk about this for days, but and I always try and keep it like on a smaller scale without opening Pandora's box on it. But there's so many sort of if you look at the narcissist, they're the bad apple. So if you look into the Bible and things like that, a narcissist is the bad apple. They are the poison. If you've got one in a workplace, they are not good for the workplace. They are the cog that doesn't want to spin properly. They are the one that disrupts. Now, you might get another grandiose narcissist, though, who's sort of an arse licker. So they like getting other people in trouble and they shoot up the ranks, don't they, in big
Yeah,
companies?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because they will burn bridges, they will step on everyone's head to get to where they want to be. But see, they're quite cutthroat.
Yeah.
And in business, that can help. So there's a lot of narcissism in business. There's also a lot of narcissists in people who are bored, people who are spoiled children, people who want to be fulfilled all the time, but they do nothing to fulfill themselves. You'll get that a lot.
Yeah.
But they're so dangerous, them type of people, because they're basically like the bored person who, as I said, they love cheating because to them it's dangerous and it's lying, it's lying to someone's face, and it's like they'll sleep with their own siblings, partners, and things like that just for attention. There's loads of shit like that that goes on.
Yeah.
So they cause damage throughout families. They rip families apart, and
Yeah.
it's sad because it's well more common than you think. It's like they're attracted more to like the partner's friends, or it's all to do with jealousy and insecurities, or they might like go on about someone on telly. So they'll find someone's insecurity and play on it.
Sorry, do you know
So if
what?
they know you're insecure, they will play on that.
Sorry, yeah, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but you know, when you said bald, I thought you said bald for a minute then, as it's people who've got no hair.
Well,
People who are bald at
no,
night.
I definitely think they make you bald, male and female. I think that they bring people that much stress level that they probably do make you bald.
Probably. Well,
But
on that point,
yeah,
yeah.
they'd
Sorry.
use that against you anyway.
Yeah, no, what I was going to ask was like, you know, as we're sort of coming towards the end of the podcast now, I wanted to get on to talk about like what tips you'd have for people, you know, and you've obviously segued perfectly into this question is like, you know, if someone's got a narcissist in their life, or more than one narcissist in their life, or has had previous exposure to someone who is a narcissist, how can you manage that relationship? And I guess how can you sort of set boundaries so that you're protecting yourself?
Unfortunately, there's not like an easy fix for that. There's no like simple answer, but that's how sort of therapy works. It's about building your own self-esteem. So it's never about fixing. You can't fix it. That there's no cure for narcissism because it's that arrogant. How can you fix something that's not broke? That's what they think.
Yeah.
I haven't got the problem you have. It's always someone else's fault. They never accept responsibility for everything. If they spill a cup of tea on the table, it wasn't their fault. There was an earthquake. Do you know what I mean? It's they're so elaborate in the lies. It's like the most basic things they'll never admit to, and the compulsive lies, as I said. So the con men and women. Now, the best thing to do once you do identify a narcissist is start keeping them more at arm's length. They call it grey rocking, really. So it's sort of because if you go up to them and everyone who's confrontational wants to do this, people who aren't confrontational never do. So someone who's confrontational, they want to have it out with the narcissist. They want to say to this person, "Listen, you fucking narcissist." But the narcissist will go, "No, not you're a narcissist," because it's childish then, isn't it? It's an argument. But then they'll character assassinate you. They'll go around telling other people about you. That's what they always do. It's like they read off the same script. It's different humans, men and women, but they act the same way. And once they start doing that, you're knackered in a way because you're battling someone. And what you don't realise is they've started slandering you well before the end of the relationship or when it comes to it. So if it's a business partner and they've ripped the business partner off, they'll start telling people, "Oh, they're having me off for money." So they're projecting what they're doing. And then people always, he was wrong. It was the other way around, wasn't it? Because they get in there first, you see. It's the way the news is done. If you bullshit people, people have got the philosophy there's no smoke without fire, but there is, because if a narcissist creates the smoke and they create the fire, and then the innocent person comes along and they will go up to them, rub smoke on the face and go, "See, look, got smoke on his face." Because that's how it works. It's all about setting people up. Because don't forget, their job is to destroy other people. Every time they destroy another person, they feel better about themselves. So back to how you deal with them. It's identify them. Now, you identify them more, the more work you do on yourself. When you start having more self-worth, when you start creating boundaries, you'll realise the narcissists in your life because they won't be happy for you.
Yeah.
When you start improving your life, what you'll notice, family members, partners, work friends, or people who aren't happy for you when you're progressing, they're not your friend. They're not a family member. People who want to ground you all the time and I will put them in his place, they're not your friend.
Is that quite obvious to spot as well? So, like, if someone's not happy for you, will they always kind of make it obvious, like they might be one of the only ones not to congratulate you? Or do you find sometimes they can play it off as being sincere, but actually in reality they're not? Like, how does it work?
Here's a little tip. What loads of them do is they go quiet.
Yeah.
So if you tell a narcissist good news about yourself, they might, and it's live, it's face to face, they might go, because they can't really believe what you tell them.
Yeah.
If you see, like, it's like if you've ever watched American Psycho, where he's a psychopath, like, but it's when they're showing the business cards.
Oh yeah,
And he
brilliant.
goes and he starts sweating and he's just like, "I can't believe he thinks like he's got a better business card than me."
Yeah.
Because he thinks this is the best. And like when Paul Allen or whatever whips out his business card, he puts his away dead fast because he's embarrassed by it then.
Yeah.
You see, he's putting that in power, and then because he's a psychopath, he sort of has the delusion that he kills this Paul Allen then because he literally hates him because he's jealous of him.
That's right.
Whereas,
It's not real. I think that's
yeah,
the sort of the main conclusions that people come to is that he just imagined that, because
yeah,
obviously he tells
most
people about it.
psychopaths and like sociopaths don't actually commit crimes because the shit houses really they don't really want to do the things. So they think about these acts, but they don't necessarily do them. But then you've got the other people who've had something bad happen in their life, and then they become it. You see, they become the worst nightmare. They become the horrors. Now, fortunately, there isn't as many as them as there is narcissists and psychopaths and sociopaths. There's a lot of them who aren't really a danger in the sense of physically hurting someone, but they mentally destroy people. because they are like insecure little children. They do it sly. It's like pinching you when the teacher's not looking. That's their mentality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then playing you. They're so sneaky, they're so sly. And like what you'll notice is there's other people out there who are onto them. But once you start realizing how many of them there are, and you realize they're everywhere, and as you said, they give themselves away a lot. They're very judgmental. They use bitch humor a lot of the time. They don't really like anyone ever taking the piss out of them. They've got no real good sense of humor. They're very selfish.
Yeah.
They might really make out that their time is more important. Like they've got kids and they go, well, I need me time. Kids don't understand that.
Yeah.
So when it's affecting children, that's when I've got a problem with it. So children need this loving, they need this empathy, they need this support, they need to be recognised, they need the needs met. But if the parent, male or female, is more bothered about their own needs, as I said, that's when you 100%, you're guaranteed that they're going to lie, they're going to cheat because they get their own way. And they will manipulate every situation because they're tricking people. But see, the self-sabotaging that, because as they get older, they realise then that they're not going to get that again. And each time they ruin a relationship, they don't necessarily get better because with a narcissist, they always compare. So they'll compare, and they often do that throughout the relationship. They'll speak about their ex-partners, or they'll try and make you jealous of their ex-partners.
Yeah.
See, to create an insecurity.
I as well, like, and obviously, because I've said it a few times on this podcast, and it might not necessarily be the hallmarks of a narcissist. So I'm only giving my opinion and sort of asking you, like, it's like Ask Jeeves this, you know. But see, when people talk about a psycho ex, I do find this sometimes on like dating app profiles where they go,
Yeah.
my ex was a psychopath, or if you're not over your psycho ex, please swipe left. And I do wonder,
Yeah.
again, that's indicative of narcissism, because you see, when you talk about your ex and you're never wrong, that worries me, that, because it's like, it can't be that black and white.
It's like, I don't know whether any of the viewers have seen like the Whatever podcast, but it's mainly females who are on. Some people like it, some people don't. But when they're on, they always say to them, like, are you in a relationship? Who split up with who? And nearly 99% of the time, the female always say they split up with the man. Now, that's not true, but a narcissist will never admit that their partner split up with them. So they always like taking, oh, I split up with them. You get this a lot, so there's no truth in it, you see. So when people have got that mentality, it's like, when are you ever getting the truth? So if you're in a relationship with someone, if you're working with someone and they're only out for their own gains, they come first in that. What relationship are you signing up for? You're being conned, aren't you? So that's how a lot of victims of narcissism feel. They feel like they've been conned because essentially they have. They fell in love with someone who doesn't exist. Or they've gone into business with someone who doesn't exist.
Sometimes they talk to the partners. I've seen case studies of this where a woman will get together with a man and he'll project a very specific image of himself, doing all the love bombing, like you said earlier. And then what she'll do is she'll actually come into contact with another ex-partner of his, and then they'll have a conversation and she'll be like, oh my God, all this stuff that happened to you is now happening to me. He made out like you were the one who was wrong, and that, you know, so it's mad really when you think about it.
But see, when people say about like the toxic behaviours of their exes, it's like most people out there will go through some sort of relationship that's not right for them. But if everyone's labelled, and this is what I'm saying, if women just go, oh well, all these fellas are narcissists, or all these fellas are now are they? But if people just listen to that, and it's not really fair on the other people then, is it? So the victims of a narcissist relationship, people are saying to them, I don't want you anymore because your ex was the bad one.
Yeah.
So that's actually saying that anyone who's being mistreated, don't come near me.
Yeah.
That tends to be a narcissist who'd say that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just
so then they're saying to you, don't come to me speaking about your ex, don't come to me because most people, like, people wouldn't be splitting up if they carried on getting on with their exes.
No, exactly.
But with a narcissist, depending on the personality with a narcissist, because they're so manipulative, and especially in men, they use women like they're a piece of meat. So and another thing, when narcissists cheat with each other, they tend to find another narcissist. So if both people are married, they're both narcissistic. So they're both lying to each other, and neither of them identify that the narcissist, you see. So when they do that, it's a competition. So one's got to punish the other. So whoever's the hardest, whoever's the strongest, punishes the other worse.
tell
But
you
it's
this.
all about control again, isn't it? It's about manipulation.
Well, it feels that way. I mean, I'm going to tell you this story. I'm not going to share this episode with my mum on this basis. Like, I'm going to try and keep it PG. So I signed up for this app, which, to be totally open and honest with the viewers, is like sort of a hookup app, basically like casual dating app. And I met a woman on there who was married. This was the first bit where I was, first of all, like, as soon as I found this out, I was like, fuck that, not going anywhere near that. She was married to a rugby player or a former rugby player. And
Yeah.
I only found this out about 2 or 3 days after matching with her. And then she was like, send it. And I must admit, like, when we were talking, she seemed really normal. Like, I shouldn't really say that. That sounds really bad. But then she was sending pictures of herself in lingerie and stuff like that. And then she was going, "Oh, come over." And you're a bit like, I must admit, I like it tempted me a bit at first, but then because I've never done anything like that. I mean, I've never cheated on anyone before. And she was like wanting me to come over and saying, "Oh, the hubby will be out," and that just made me feel a bit queasy, to be honest. But then I just eventually said to her, "Look, I can't do this. Does he know you're doing this? Like, this is mad."
Yeah.
I do think that if you're in a relationship where it's like an ethical, what do they call it? Ethical non-monogamy, monogamy. Yeah,
Yeah.
ethical non-monogamy. I can never say that word, but like, where it's something like that, if they are okay with it and know about it, that's fine. But that, like, even I find that a bit strange. But if they're okay with it, then you're not kind of doing anything wrong. But when she said, "Oh, don't worry about that. He doesn't need to know," I was like, "No, I'm fucking not doing this. You just need to say if you're not happy in a relationship. Don't
Yeah.
lie
See,
behind his back and do all that. It's just, yeah,
yeah. I mean, if you're getting into the waters there, where it sort of becomes a little bit seedy in ways because it's like, although people are adults, you've got these people who are getting used. So the Puff Daddy chart, I mean, it's the perfect example of it. Like,
yeah,
is it called a fuckhold or something like that? So he
yeah,
likes watching, like he like watching his ex like sleep with other men and sort of that. So that is about his control, you see. So that's like she's his piece of meat, and he can watch other men. So, like, I don't get that. I really don't. And it's like I try and understand a lot of people, but for me, that's almost like about humiliation. It's almost about
yeah.
shaming,
It's like it's
isn't it?
it's degrading
It's almost,
yourself, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah. And for women, I think for a lot of women, and this is the difference of what I find between men and women, is men are a lot more, especially when they're single men. Men can sleep with a woman and there's no emotions. And it
yeah,
might come across as cold, it might come across as that. As men mature, they tend to start wanting a deeper relationship, they want to start that. But for a female, they've got a lot more power in sort of who they give the body to and who they sort of want to have sex with and things like that. So it's a lot more meaningful for women. And when women tell themselves it's not, it deeply affects them
yeah.
because women are treated in a different way and things like that. The women have got that choice. If a woman wants to sleep around and becomes easy, they're not respected, are they?
Mm. No, yeah. Well,
But
it's seen differently.
but
Yeah,
for a man to do that, it's more rare because for men, they've got to have charisma, they've got to have this thing, they've got to be sort of have something about them. A woman doesn't. A woman can go up to a good-looking woman can go up to a group of men and say, "Does any of you want to sleep with me?" And I'm pretty much guaranteed one of them would probably say, "Yeah."
look at Bonnie Blue. I mean, I don't know if you've seen all that. That makes me so depressed.
Yeah,
Reading
well,
all
I mentioned it. It's like, cause if that's a female role model, isn't that just prostitution?
it's just embarrassing. Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's
so
humiliating.
but I
Yeah.
know, but if we're telling people that you can sell it, and this is what I'm saying, so on like the online stuff and things like that, it's people wanting more excitement. Now, for this fella who's the ex-rugby player or whatever like that, he might be in on it or he might not. But the chances are she might want to see her husband beat the shit out of someone.
This is then I was actually, do you know what? It's funny you say that because in my head I did wonder whether it was like a bit of a ploy, almost like, that whole kind of damsel in distress screaming. Listen, I'm not getting in a fight with a fucking rugby player. I think he was
Yeah.
retired, by the way, but even a retired rugby player, I'm still not fancying my chances there, and it was just so weird. And like, whenever I kind of made allusions to the fact that, and this was obviously not probably the time or place to do it, but even when I suggested to her this wasn't a very healthy thing to do, and that she should really chat to him, it was all like very much, "Oh, I guess you're not interested in me then. Why? What are you doing on this app if you're not?" Kind of being a bit a
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
manipulative and a bit sulky, and it's like, look, I'm trying to protect you and me here.
Like a narcissist would act, it's a rejection, so you're rejecting that person. Whereas they want people who validate the bad behaviour. You see, and as I said, this is the mental health part for a lot of females, because there's a lot of men out there who will just use women like they're a piece of meat.
Yeah,
And for a narcissistic woman, if she's someone's second choice, so she's having an affair with someone, and then she's that second choice, she's not going to like it.
no.
Have you ever seen the film, like the film, what's it called, where she boils the bunny rabbit? Is it called Single by Female or something like that?
I
But
don't know.
it's like that mentality. If you create a narcissist where you're in competition with them and they're in competition with you, this is where the things always go wrong. So they never accept responsibility, so they will blame the other person.
Yeah,
So when they get caught, which they normally always do, because that's the self-sabotage, you see, you can't stop them. I seen some reporter the other day, and I've never heard him, something O'Keefe his name is, but he's basically saying that most of the people who he investigates in America are narcissists. He said, and you know, even when you've got evidence of them doing something, they'll still deny it. And he said, because they're so arrogant, they
Trump does
believe that they're not going to be caught.
Trump does that all the time. You present like objective evidence to him, and he'll just be like, "Oh, that's not me. I didn't say." It's like it's literally there.
Yeah,
Um,
so but as I'm saying, how do you change if you don't accept responsibility? How do you change? So I'll just jump back to the thing, that how do you sort of deal with them? The idea is awareness about yourself, but you learn how to detach from them, and the best way to do it is a gentle detachment rather than the sort of forceful way, because the forceful way is creating a war, and you don't really want to go to war with a narcissist because they're ruthless. They've got no emotions, they've got no empathy. They will stand on someone's head. Like I do believe, and this is my own personal belief on it, but the suicide rate in men is so high because of narcissistic women.
yeah,
I've always thought this for years and years. There's a very high percentage because these narcissistic people make people feel worthless. And don't get me wrong, there's loads of women out there who suffer so much pain because of these arsehole narcissistic men. But what we've got to recognise, especially for any females who've got sons, they're going into a world now where women want attention, where it's like the old-fashioned values have gone. So you've got to sort of educate your kids into finding a partner who's going to love them, who's going to care for them, who's going to have empathy for them. Because men do need validating, men do need empathy, men need sympathy. But we live in a society where men aren't appreciated. Men are just sort of told to shut up,
yeah,
go off to war and die for the rest of your country, but we don't give a shit about you. Like anything bad happens, people are always interested. As women and children being hurt, fuck the men.
yeah.
Many men can die as you want, but if women and children have been hurt, then that's crossing the line. And that's the way society looks. So we were talking about on the last podcast where you'd have more empathy for a female crying than you would a man.
Hmm. Yeah,
So see, we're brainwashed, aren't we, to have that where if we want equality in the world, we've got to treat people pretty similar. We are different men and women, though. People need to recognise that. Women should embrace themselves for being a female. Men should embrace themselves for being a female. And we should both respect each other for being different and respect what we all offer. So if we start being nicer to each other and showing each other empathy, obviously it helps, because when you have empathy for yourself, you won't be as open to not having empathy off someone else. But when people lack empathy for themselves, like empaths, they lack empathy for themselves. So they're they're like the winning prize for the narcissist, because they're asking the narcissist for nothing. So they get nothing in return.
um, just finally, what you mentioned, the Whatever podcast. Are there any other studies or people or podcasts or authors or whatever that you recommend the viewers check out if they want to find out more about the topic of narcissism?
So a good one I always found, and this is one of the first person who I really started following a lot about narcissism years ago, was Dr. Ramani. Now she's on YouTube a lot, but she's brilliant. She's done a lot of podcasts now in Britain and stuff like that, but she's like really, really good on it.
How
Then
do you,
you've got Jordan.
how do you spell Ramani? Sorry,
I'm not too sure. I'm not too
Ramani with
sure.
a Y or an I?
I think it's an I.
Yeah, I'll check it out and I'll link to it in the description. I'll Google.
Never trust a dyslexic person on spellings. So,
I'll put
but
you on the
I'm
spot
sure
there.
it's RAMANI, I think.
Yeah,
And then Jordan
I'll look into it after this.
Jordan Peterson, he's very good at breaking it down, although his reactions to things sometimes is questionable and stuff like that. But he's very good, and I learn a lot from him. But yeah, then the Whatever podcast, I find that more. It's sort of one man who debates with numerous women, and it's all based in America. And you sort of get the idea of what the next the younger generations, especially females in America, are thinking, and how delusional they can be.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just an eye opener, really. The first time I seen it, I was like, "Wow, is this what the world thinks now?"
Yeah.
But men seem to be sort of like labelled a lot as the narcissists of the world. But if you look at the damage to children, in my world anyway, and especially in the world that like a therapy that I do, there's a lot that comes from mothers. Not always the mums. It can be the dads, but a lot of the time with people who've had it right the way through their lives, it comes from the mums. When people tend to have it later on in life, that can come through males and females. But fundamentally, children, girls and boys, they need their mum. And we need to pay more attention to the first 7 years of children's lives, because other countries that aren't westernised the way we are, they raise the children. And the children don't really suffer with autism. They don't really suffer with all these other symptoms like ADHD. They don't suffer with them because the child feels secure.
Mm-hmm.
And if we keep promoting children don't need parents, what world are we going to live in? Are we going to have AI looking after kids soon?
Oh my God. Do you know, I saw something the other day, will AI replace carers? And I was like, oh my God, can you imagine that? Imagine it.
But it will. So see that if they keep doing that, but what the working class don't realise is every time AI replaces a working class job, why will they need them working class people to be alive still?
Oh God, yeah, let's not get into that, Jesus. This could be 3 hours in
But
itself. I could talk about this.
it's the questions. So all I get from every podcast we do, I just want people to question things. I want people to relate. It's not about me and you. It's about sort of what they interpret from it. I'm pretty sure everyone, if they watch this, they will be able to pick up on who they think is narcissistic in their life. But I forgot to say it last time, but if you please like and subscribe, because that's how we know that people are paying interest in it, and that's sort of how it. And share it as well. If you feel like someone could benefit from this, share it with them. Even if they're not going to reach out for therapy, they can still share it. And even if it helps someone, that's the idea of these podcasts, is to help people who maybe wouldn't go down the route yet of therapy, but themselves asking questions.
Keep spreading the word. Yeah, I mean, I put it out on LinkedIn sometimes, but we need to do more with it and get more people sharing it, and particularly on things like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, we are on there. I think the handle is exactly the same on Instagram and TikTok. It's Power Off One Podcast, and one is ONE. Again, I'll drop all the links in the description, and I think that's pretty much it. So as I say, hopefully there's no Ukraine sympathisers that are watching, or Renee Zellweger's family, or maybe even
Or Trump sympathisers, or that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, it's not about us. It's about being aware of our own sort of like self-worth. Really, that's how you can identify more. A narcissist won't give you much self-worth. That they'll sort of diminish that way. They don't tell you you're enough. If anyone does want to reach me though for therapy, you can get me on Constant Direct to the Psychology Today or BACP website, because, as I said, I mainly do work with and classes the victims of narcissistic abuse. Anything really, it can be its own insecurities. It's not necessarily has to be about narcissism, but if you've been around a narcissist, you will know about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Like so many of the things you've said in this podcast have rung true to me in my experience, where I'm like, wow, I've definitely experienced that before. So hopefully loads of people who watch this will know when they're around a narcissist, and B, know how to manage it, which is ultimately what we want. So yeah, thank you so much, Paul, and it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. It's been brilliant, and like obviously your insight into it, you are the voice of the people, and I want you to be intuitive with these questions, because I know so much information about it. Like, as I said, I could go on forever about it. Like, this is one of my topics where, like, I could probably go on mastermind about it, because I know so much information about it. But the main thing I want people to take away from it is look at people's actions rather than the words. A narcissist will never stick to the word. They're not a person of the word.
Mhm.
They will lie, they will cheat, they will sort of manipulate to get their own way. They will throw tantrums. All these things in an adult are not normal. We should not validate it.
Mhm.
And it seriously needs looking at, because if it doesn't, like, society's just going to keep getting worse because the infiltrated the bad apple.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Paul. As I say, that there's some really great insights there, and definitely stuff that people can start actioning today. I think that's the key thing, like how they can start improving their lives today and make their relationships better with people. So yeah,
Yeah, and
fantastic.
that's all we're after, isn't it? Improving people's lives in a genuine way rather than sort of any tricks or sort of, you need
Yeah,
this, you need to do this.
gimmicks
It's
or
not,
yeah,
it is what it is.
yeah,
So,
perfect.
yeah, once again, thank you, mate.
Cheers, Paul.